Good evening,
Hi.
everybody. How are we? For those
Hello.
for those who may be listening, I am in the presence of three national treasures. I
Really?
will start alphabetically with Bree Elliott, followed by Jordan Rivers, Paul Barlow, and I am Sean Ackland. Welcome to the collective, everybody. Thank you for joining us. So, really big month, you guys. Where to begin? Paul.
Yeah, huge month. To be honest, I've been a little bit busy doing other things to pay a huge amount of attention to things. But my big project over the last few months has been the website build that I was on with Chewy and Ems the other night talking on BHN. It is full of so much information. There is something like 300 different data points that have been used to create different applications. There's a political calendar. There's a 200 plus fact check moment of decisions that the government's made over that time. There's some really deep impact stuff. There's some research into how the right controls the media or how AstroTurfs are taken over. That it's been pretty full on. And then on top of that, it's just trying to get through each day because it's a struggle. Friday was a really fascinating one, watching the news sort of, oh my God, let's have a freak out. Yeah, we'll talk about that one a little bit later, I think.
Can we take some time today to also go through that website as well? I'd love to quiz you and see if there are any questions about it as well in the chat.
Yeah, we can definitely do that.
All right. So, I believe today is National Women's Day. Paul, do we have anything from our esteemed government? Any comments regarding National Women's Day? Any posts?
Yeah, let me bring this one up for you. New Zealand First posted about it today, and we know how very much they are into this kind of thing. Let's see if that comes up. Allow, add to stage. All right, so this is New Zealand First celebrating International Women's Day, standing up for women. They have got, it's New Zealand First.
Yep.
So
okay.
They include accepting petitions from Family First to ensure that women is defined as an adult human female in our laws, and accepted a petition to accurately define sex in legislation from Speak Up for Women. I believe neither of these have progressed, or they might have pulled them or put something similar into the ballot that was supposed to be around these topics, and then they've been pulled out because they only had so many in the ballot.
My understanding is that they put that in the ballot, then took it out. Then didn't they put it back in again? Is
Possibly.
it there now? Wow.
Know.
If there's anything that says commitment, it's going back on something twice.
It's very good for catching headlines for New Zealand.
Yeah, it's true.
We're going to do this, so headlines. And then we have Standing Up for Women expectations outlined. Casey Costello directed Health New Zealand to say woman instead of pregnant people in its communications about health issues. And Sport NZ has announced it is totally removing its gender participation guidelines due to government direction. Direction from Mark Mitchell, not from New Zealand First.
Oh, I don't know who Mark Mitchell is. I know I know Mark Mitchell.
And then we've got legislation that they have drafted, which might or might not be in the tin. They introduced a members' bill that would ensure the biological definition of woman and man are defined in law, and introduced a members' bill that will require, primarily in the interest and safety of women and girls, that all new non-domestic publicly accessible buildings provide separate, clearly demarcated unisex and single-sex bathrooms.
Actually, this has actually the bathroom thing. There's always been confusion regarding the kind of bathroom debate at my end, because it seems kind of defeating in terms of what they're trying to accomplish. Like if you can imagine a trans man using the woman's toilet, which is what he would have to because he was born a woman, biological woman, if their claim is that they don't want men in these facilities with women, well, if you can imagine someone like I don't know if you guys are familiar with I think his name is Chastity Bono. Cher's son, born a biological woman, transitioned. You look at this guy, he's a man. He looks more manly than any of us. And do you really want this man in the bathroom, in these public toilets with these little girls? Because as much as you like to claim that, oh, wow, we're protecting, it seems like you're actually, it seems kind of like you're fulfilling what it is you're trying to prevent. Have they never taken that moment of reflection? Have they never taken that moment to kind of consider that if they were to achieve this goal, it would fulfill what it is they're actually trying to avoid?
Yeah.
Well, that is
the massive hole in their entire narrative and conversation, is that they tends to focus. I mean, it doesn't even tend to. It absolutely focuses on trans women without dealing with that issue as well on the other side. And so it's like they're always so close to addressing the fact that the issue is men, that the fear is men taking advantage of these issues. They're so close to the issue. They're so close to getting it right, but instead they're like, no. I don't want to blame men unless it serves me to blame men. Yeah, it's just so depressing. And also to use International Women's Day as a way to just bag on trans women the whole day is insane.
Yeah, very New Zealand first.
It's so New Zealand. It's just so, yeah. There are bigger issues. God damn.
But also, can't they be fucking normal? Can't it just be, hey, happy International Women's Day? You know, there's a million ways to be normal about it, and they inconceivably, almost impressively, choose the wrong way. And like, are we really meant to be giving New Zealand first that much grief? Because out of the three coalition partners, they're the ones who came closest to acknowledging that it even was International Women's Day. You know? Yeah. That's my 2 cents.
It was also the anniversary of the passing of Georgina Bayer, the world's first openly transgender MP and transgender mayor, who Winston Peters at the time, during her time, was very civil with and very happy to have in his company. But now that it's advantageous to not be that way, the grift has just gone grift.
He'll go whichever way the wind blows.
It's not like Winston to sell out his own people or to sell out people that he's on good terms with, you know? He doesn't have a history of that.
I've got a question that just popped up from Spiderhoof, good old Spiderhoof, with a super chat, and this is a very impressive super chat, so thank you for that. Kia ora, folk. I've been looking forward to this all day, so have we. What are your thoughts on who Luxon will be replaced by? P.S. Jordan, are you wearing a scrunchie as a fashion bracelet?
I'll address the last part of that question there, Paul. Lately, I have just been wearing a scrunchie because it's convenient, and my hairdresser told me that I have not been treating my hair well, and I have too many split ends. So someone's got to wear scrunchies. That's my piece of hair advice for the collective chat today. Great question.
Would you all like to take a stab at the first part of the question? Who would you like to see, or who do you think is the most logical replacement for Christopher Luxon if he was to go?
So I'm of two minds. As somebody who wants to see this coalition get beaten in November, I want them to put forward the most beatable candidate. And right now, I feel like the most beatable candidate is Christopher Luxon. So I almost like, and that's probably all the more reason for them to roll him, that people like me want to see him see it through to November. I will say it has been a supreme pleasure just watching the right-wing figureheads like Heather Duplessis-Allen and Nicola Willis just circling the wagon, just waiting to feast on his remains. It reminds me kind of like the end of Lion King when all the hyenas just turned on Scar. That's kind of what it reminds me. I don't know if anybody saw it. Nicola Willis being interviewed about Christopher Luxon and the low poll result. She was pretty emphatic in a way that she isn't usually, where she said that the number is too low. Then when Heather Duplessis-Allen said, do you think that there should be a new leader? She asked, do you think he should be the leader of the National Party? She said he was elected as the leader. Now we know he was elected as the leader. Ask me right now, do I think Chloe Swarbrick should be the leader of the Greens? Yes.
Do you reckon, yeah.
Yes, I do. Do I think that Winston Peters should be the leader of NZ First? Yes, because there is no bigger cooker in the country than Winston Peters. It makes all the sense in the world for him to be the leader of New Zealand First. Do I think that David Seymour should be the leader of Te Pāti Pākehā? Yes, he should be the leader of the ACT Party. It all makes sense to me. For her to not just say, yes, that was a soft ball, down low, middle of the plate, she would not commit to it. And you can tell that there is that it seems that the people in this country who hate or want to see Christopher Luxon rid of the most are the people within his own party. It is people in the right-wing media space. Mike Hosking doesn't like Christopher Luxon. Heather Duplessis-Allen doesn't like him. They stomach him. And you can bet I could see a real coalescing between right-wing media among right-wing media in terms of getting rid of Luxon, while Luxon's people within the party take a step back and kind of allow it to happen without outright endorsing it. In terms of who I think is going to replace him, you talk about nothing but shit options. The best, if I'm within National, the best option I would choose in terms of like who would be the least compromise, who has the least amount of baggage behind him, it would probably be Bishop. That would be that's my speculation. I would love to hear what everybody else has to say on that one.
On that interview, it was massively awkward that she deflected such a softball question. Should Chris be the leader of the party? Yeah, and then she deflected to, well, he's been elected or the caucus are behind him. Strange, because when Christopher was asked whether or not Nicola should be the Minister of Finance, he was almost too much the other way. It was like absolutely
the best finance minister of all. Yes, the best finance minister we've ever had.
Yeah, it was totally the wrong question to deflect. But I also think maybe they're just so used to deflecting, and she probably went into the interview with that ready to deflect every question because she felt like she was going to get some hard ones. But it was just such a slip up there. In terms of, I mean, I wouldn't want to see anyone lead. I think back to Judith Collins's interview from only like 3 weeks ago, and she was basically asked about biggest regrets, and she said one of hers was, well, her biggest one was becoming leader of the party for that short term during the election. She really regretted that, and regretted it because it was a massive hospital pass. She was taking on a party that was already massively unfavorable and then tasked with trying to bring them back from the depths of hell and wasn't able to. And as a result, it took a massive toll on her. So, I mean, anyone who would want to be leader of that party now, because it isn't just Luxon that's polling low, the party itself is not doing great. So anyone who wants to take that mantle has to be really hungry for leadership because it is an absolute hospital pass. And they have to deal with the fact that they are likely, you know, as far as those polls are going, not even going to get in, and then have to deal with maybe wait it out for another 3 years until they can try again for another election. But it would be, you've really got to be hungry for it if you wanted to take the leadership now. I also think the person who could bring it back the most is probably Luxon, which sounds out the gate, I know. But Luxon's the guy that everyone identifies with the promises, right? So if they were able to deliver any semblance of those promises in the future, it would be better that it was the same guy who promised them. If a new person came in and they were able to deliver on anything, no one associates that person with making those promises. So it just kind of feels like something happening. People don't attribute those positive things with the new leader. So it would just be it's a hell choice for anyone in that party if they wanted to do that.
Who would you have, Jordan? Who
Oh,
would
right.
you?
Who would I have? If I was on the right?
If you were on the right and you were within the National Party, you were maybe an advisor, who would you put your chips behind?
The person who would say the right things constantly without fail. Because that's what they need right now, is someone to say the right things, is probably Bishop. Because I feel like Bishop cares the least about people. He's a tobacco lobbyist. So there's never going to be that, the angel on the other side of his shoulder saying, don't do that. It's devils both sides. Is like, this is good for tobacco, this is good for landlords. So I think if anyone was going to stick on message, it'd be Bishop. But he's also just so unlikable. Just his face makes me angry.
Bree Elliott, what are your thoughts?
I've heard through the grapevine that Bishop really wants finance, so I reckon they'll put Nikki in Prime Minister and him as finance and maybe as deputy. That's my theory, but only because Nicola has no redemption arc, so I feel like she'll want to be Prime Minister and then just go to Canada and work for Atlas or something like that. But I don't really know. They don't have many good options, do they?
I changed my mind. I said before that I want the most beatable candidate, and in my mind that was Luxon. If it's Nikki no votes, considering that she's not even going to be running in her electorate because she shat the bed so hard in Wellington, I would love that. As somebody who wants to see this party, well, when I say I would love it, you've also got to consider that could potentially mean even more pain for Kiwis for the next 6 or 7 months. However, as from an election standpoint, in terms of the beatable candidates, Nicola Willis, would she be the first Prime Minister to never win an election in terms of, because she's list ranked?
Oh, yeah.
Do I have that wrong? Jacinda won Mount Albert, correct? I could.
Yeah. If she was Prime Minister, I think she'd be the first list-only Prime Minister.
I will say this, and actually this is a topic I would love to kind of really deep dive into if we have time, and it's a pattern I've noticed, and it goes all the way back to Keith Holyoake. Keith Holyoake was replaced by, I think, Jack Marshall. If you don't know that name, it's because he was out. He became Prime Minister. He lost that election. Then the same thing happened with Jim Bolger when he was replaced by Jimmy Shipley. The same thing happened with John Key when he was replaced with Bill English. And it happens in Labour as well. It happened with it does happen. It happened with David Longy. It happened with Norman Kirk when they had their respective successors, who both went on to lose their respective elections, and Jacinda. So you would have to think it would be the nail in the coffin. When you look at history, I don't think there has been ever a single, correct me if I'm wrong, I could have this wrong, but I don't think there's ever been a moment in history where the leader, the Prime Minister, has been replaced with somebody, and that someone has gone on to win that election. Technically, Bill English can say he did. When I say that won the election, I should say they became the party in power. So it really would be the nail in the coffin, unless this. If there is government to buck that trend. It will certainly not be this government.
No.
Certainly won't be. So yeah, I think it would be the nail in the coffin. And also, yeah, go ahead, Jordan.
I was going to say, the concern with the entire kind of scenario is that in the meantime, David Seymour would be acting prime minister, wouldn't he? In the meantime, if there was a role,
yes,
just for a short term, that would be concerning. And also, it would be a bigger length of time if Luxon was stepping out, right? If they were stepping out and they had to decide on a leader for the party, then for that period of time, it would be Seymour, and that's something I don't want for any length of time.
It almost like we're talking about the best option for National. I think their best chance right now is to just, I think, try and make the best with Luxon, make the best out of Luxon. Yeah. Do your best to win this year. Any person that you give it to, it will be a hospital pass. It's a good way to kind of seal your fate. Yeah, I would take my licks and try and come back for it in 2029. But yeah, I don't want them to take that advice because I think it's good advice and I want them to only take bad advice. Yeah.
Very fair. So Spoda Hooper's actually just sent this through as well. They put a disposable to lose the 2026 election, like Bish or Goldsmith, at the same time bringing their new champion, Fraser Winnering, who was going to leap in as leader in 2018, but was undercut by Luxon. I have to admit, I'm not sure on this one. I don't know that particular individual because I try and avoid the minutiae of that kind of politics from the party. But for me, I'd like to see Catherine Wedd in there because she is an unknown. She's the MP for, I think it's Tuki, and she's a former journalist. And I would just love to be able to point to them and go, yeah, you guys keep saying that all journalists were left-wing because of some flawed survey from Curia a few years ago. Now you've got one who's leader of National. Doesn't seem particularly left-wing, like Jenny Maycroft or all of the other former journalists that have ended up as National Party or ACT or New Zealand First MPs.
Yeah, Catherine Wedd would be a slippery one. Yeah.
All right. Should we move on to moving on?
Please.
All right. So this is one of those fancy word clouds that they do in like big corporate events and reports and stuff like that. This is actually based on the media coverage of the move on orders that we saw earlier this month that Paul Goldsmith and the Prime Minister announced, where basically if you are a person who is without a home and you are annoying people by being a person without a home, they're going to get the police to move you on to somewhere. And if you can't do that, you would be fined $2,000 or sent to prison. It has been called a number of things. Draconian is a big one that seems to have cropped up quite a bit. Bully tactics, mean-spirited. I'm very curious to get everybody's feedback on this one. What are your thoughts on this particular order?
It's been a shit show, but I'm just so confused by it. Like, it just doesn't seem like a win. It almost, initially when it came out, it felt like it was maybe a distraction piece because it just doesn't feel, maybe it's just like a quick achievable win for them, but surely they knew that this was not going to be popular with most New Zealanders because it's not even really something that affects most New Zealanders, this inability to spend heaps of money in a shop because there's a homeless person outside. It's just it's such a strange thing for them to do. And then Goldsmith put up a video today saying, lots of people have said that we're criminalizing being homeless, but we're not doing that. What we're saying is that if we tell them to leave and then they don't leave, then they will be charged and dealt with. So just to clarify, the Nats are saying that it is not, when they're not criminalizing being homeless, they're criminalizing being homeless after they've told you not to be. If they tell you not to be, if they tell you to stop being homeless, but you keep doing it, boom, crime. That's their explanation.
So they should just buy houses if they don't want to be homeless anymore.
That's what Luxon said, basically.
That is what Luxon said. That's what I inferred from from when he said, because the journalist did say, what should, I think it was something along the lines of like, what should they do about about kind of their situation? Wouldn't it be easier just to house them? And he said, well, under our government, houses have never been cheaper. So for me, I did the implication is that, well, they could buy a house under our government because they're cheaper. This man, he's just bad at this. Like, I think that's what offends me the most about him, is that we don't have, like John Key was just as toxic in terms of policy, but you had to admire that just as a politician, he kind of knew how to maneuver those dicey questions. He knew how to kind of navigate that terrain in a way that, you know, if John Key is Tarzan, you know, swinging through the jungle, Christopher Luxon is sinking in quicksand after his first step. And yeah, it's vice signaling, isn't it? Like, there's no better term for it. It's vice signaling. It's, look at how shitty we are as people. All you shitty people, vote for us because we're the shit. We're just as shit as you. We like to kick down as much as you do. That's what it just screams of. And if you know anybody who lives in the CBD, we know a few people who live in the CBD, and they'll be the first ones to tell you the troublemakers are fucking uni students, you know, on a Friday night or an early Saturday morning. And they're the troublemakers. It's the drunk private school kids, you know, picking fights and pulling on each other's collars and throwing bottles. They're the public nuisance, or certainly more of a public nuisance than just some guy trying to get a bit of rest. Shit.
It's just an easy thing to do. That's all it is that, well, we'll just take a non-issue and put the onus on cops to do yet another thing that cops don't really want to be doing. And then to frame it as if it's like fucking, what is it, Chuck and Mary? Is that what Luxon said? Jesus.
Yeah.
Was that the two names he used?
Chuck and Mary.
Out of touch just on that. Because in terms of making up...
by Chuck Schumer, the US is it senator or... The
US senator, the majority leader, minority leader.
So for about 40 odd years, Chuck Schumer has done this thing where he goes, well, I was talking to this imaginary couple, and they've got the same name. He's used the same name for decades, and you know, they were people that would vote Republican, and this is why they said they'd come over to us. And it was a made-up scenario that he was using to justify, you know, being boring and mid. It feels very much like he's taken that sort of logic jump in that example from Chuck Schumer and gone, how do I put it here? I'm going to name one of these people after Chuck and go from there. And
I wouldn't be shocked. I know the reference you're making about Chuck Schumer. And so Bro described them. I remember this. He was like, okay, well, they voted for Clinton, but they also voted for McCain. They voted for Hillary Clinton during the Trump election, but for the prior two elections, they voted for Trump. And it's like, bro, they're Republicans. If you voted for Trump in the past two elections, they're Republicans. So yeah, I know, and you know, I don't want to get too far into the weeds about how fucking broken Democrat politicians are, but it does speak to why they lose so goddamn always. It's because they try to be Republican light instead of appeal to the people who will vote for them. But yeah, sorry, little side tangent there.
That's good. It is bizarre, the Chuck and Mary thing. And the weird thing about it is that Luxon was clearly coming up with a scenario where he could justify the move on orders as if it was also an economic part of his economic plan, right? Which presents this idea that there are so many homeless people creating ruckus outside shops that it's affecting the economy. And I'm like, who believes that? There's not enough. There would have to be, I don't know, but there would have to be so many homeless people stopping people from entering shops for it to be seen on our kind of economic review. For him to frame it that way, I just thought was just such a reach.
So let's go back to that. What costs more? What costs more, to house them or to incarcerate them? Do we have the numbers on that? Because
So on average,
Yeah.
$85 a day if you go through the programs that they've got up and running at the moment that create this wraparound service. There's a Housing First system in Kirikiriroa that's been up and running for about 10 years. That's our best way of being able to work out the cost. It's basically, here's a house, right, we'll help you with everything else afterwards, $85 a day. Prison works out to be $235 a day per person. So it is exponentially more expensive to incarcerate someone than it is to actually put them through giving them the support structures they need to get out of homelessness.
That was a point I tried to get across in 2023 when they were talking about being tough on crime, and especially coming up and talking about these boot camps and whatnot, is that it is so much more expensive to imprison these people than it is to put effort towards rehabilitating them or housing them. It is so much cheaper to do the right thing, but they can't absorb the money that way.
Now, far be it for me to accuse them of any nefarious intention. However, and if you follow my content, you might be familiar with this trope that I employ of what would a reasonable person conclude? Because for decades, consecutive national governments have had transactional relationships with the private prison sector. No government more than this government. And it does seem awfully convenient that it seems as if there is a winner from this story, because you speak before, it's confounding that they could have such unpopular policy. Well, not if you're a private prison operator. This is good news if you're a private prison operator. This is more beds. This is more beds to fill. This is more money in your pocket, as the national government would say. I'm not accusing them of anything. I would never do that. However, if you were a reasonable person, would you conclude that there is a transactional element to this policy that the private prison operators are going to be benefiting from? Throw it to you guys.
Oh, sorry. I would say it's been pretty clear from the start that there's been a pipeline being built by this government that takes our most troubled and vulnerable and just funnels them into prisons. Because if we're expanding prisons, which is one of the first things they said they wanted to do, and then even if we go back to boot camps, which we know don't work, have like an 80% failure rate, typically these people also end up in these spaces where they end up in prisons as well. And then we're also working with a government that ignores all of the recommendations from the abuse and state care investigation, which shows that so many people that end up in prisons are people that came through that state care. We have a government that is very obviously, no conspiracy needed, building a pipeline for these troubled and vulnerable people to just end up in prison anyway and be labeled as bad people.
Bad people who also can't vote.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that as well. Yeah.
Bree, what are your thoughts?
Move on where? Like, I don't know. I feel like back in the day when I was a kid, there was like one homeless person and everyone knew him by name in our city. And like now there's just so many and they're in all the towns and all the little areas. So I don't know where they're planning on moving them to. I don't know why they don't just have those like overnight facilities that they had when I was younger. You could like get a locker and put all your stuff in there and you could stay for like 2 days, I think, and then you'd have to find somewhere else, but then you could go back. I don't know why we didn't just set up more of those kind of things. I think like community-led things, but government funded should be how we're doing it.
It's so crazy because you actually never think of these things. That's a real good point that Bree just made about, because I was the same. I remember the homeless guy, the one homeless guy. I don't remember his name. Everybody used to call him Loose Change. That's because that's always what he used to say. But it's so crazy. And sometimes you just have these kind of, this is not normal, these kind of visuals. And we like to talk about the homelessness crisis as if it's something that's kind of been around for ages. And I think we kind of speak about it that way is because, homeless people, there have always been unhoused people. However, when I was a kid, there was just that one guy in Ponsonby. And it is, Sorry, guys, I'm just going to take off for a second. My battery's running low. Just got to grab my
That's okay.
charger. I'll just leave it to you.
Doom.
We had, well, I guess we had Ben Hunter or Blanket Man in Wellington. It was pretty. Now we have a monument to him as well. But yeah, it is an issue that's gotten worse over time. And yeah, you guys are right. We really shouldn't be treating it as if we can't let the kind of social narrative be that it's always been this way. Because there's definitely more homeless people visibly than when I was growing up. It is getting worse.
I think it was the Salvation Army report that came out last year, their State of the Nation, which said that in Auckland, homelessness had doubled in the last 12 months.
Yeah.
It's up to just shy of 1,000 people now. Auckland, being the largest city, would have the largest population of homeless people as well. It's horrifying. It's horrifying.
Yeah.
But also, who was it that stopped all the building of social housing?
Yeah. Yeah.
So they did it to themselves. So
And increased sanctions and made it harder to get that housing as well, that emergency housing as well.
Yeah,
You know,
we'll keep
they
people out of
increased-
emergency housing.
They made these avenues even harder for these people that need them the most, for them to see.
And it's like all our libraries and stuff are all earthquake broken and ruined as well. So it's like, how are these people even meant to get jobs? Like, how are they meant to do anything?
Yeah.
There has to be jobs for people to get jobs.
Yeah, true.
The bloody uni students can't get jobs. If you have a nursing degree, you can't get a job. Yeah.
Was it 1,700 people in that last one? It's not even the worst. 1,700 people applied for that one role at Tank Juice. I think it was a little bit more than that.
In my class the other day, they were all saying that, like, oh, you need a degree to get a job. You know, you needed a degree to get a job. And I was like, well, you didn't used to need a degree to get a job. None of my family members had degrees. You used to be able to work your way up. What happened?
So when I was young, it was you need a degree to get a well-paying job. And then with the Zoomers, you need a degree to have a job. What will it be? What will it be? What will it be in 10 years?
Yeah.
You need a degree to get considered for a job.
Not every job requires a degree. You know, if you are a cleaner, for example, you're working somewhere like McDonald's, you don't need a degree to be able to do the job well. You just need to know how to do the job well. And limiting it to people with degrees automatically cuts people out of getting into the system and helping themselves. The thing that we keep being told National is all for. They just fuck everything up.
Not to mention a lot of people, most people I know are getting degrees and then doing jobs that are not in those degrees. I believe don't we have a Minister of Finance who has an English Lit degree?
Yeah, I believe so.
Me and Nicola Willis have the same amount of qualifications. We are equally qualified for finance minister.
I prefer
Somebody just needs to go up there and start quoting Shakespeare, and she might get it. Alas, for the fairies, we knew you well.
Yeah. What
right.
was Et tu Brute? What was that one? Et tu Brute.
Caesar, Julius Caesar.
Was that Shakespeare?
Yeah.
Something tells me Christopher Luxon will be saying those words in a few weeks.
Yeah. All right, so I've got a bit of a list here for you about who it is that's come out publicly in favor of the move on order and who it is that's come out publicly against the move on order. For those of you who may be listening, right now it's only the best people in New Zealand who are on the left. Nothing but winners. Ironically.
Yeah.
So in the support column, we've got the Chamber of Commerce head, former National Party leader, and I don't know, something so punchable about him, but he does love yaks, Simon Bridges. You've got Mrs. Barry Soper, Heather Duplessis Allen, who I think it might have been you, Jordan, put out this thing this week where you pointed out what she said in her show about just annoy homeless people until they leave.
Yeah, and specifically until they leave and go to a cemetery. Such a weird. Yeah. Why would that be the next place? It sounded like, and I am not saying this is what she was saying, but it sounds almost as if the person was implying that they should go die somewhere and then realize that was too harsh and then qualified it by saying, and then hang out in the cemetery, fully alive. It was just such a weird thing to say.
Mm-hmm. We also have the most well-paid high school dropout without a degree in the country, Mike Hosking. And if you have to get a degree to get a job, he would be out of work.
Mm.
Yeah. I fell into radio as well, which is even more frustrating. We, of course, have the Prime Minister for now, and Paul Goldsmith, who might actually be out based on the last poll results, because he would be in on the list, because there's no way he's going to win Epsom. And we've got Viv Beck, who is the chair of Heart of the City and a former Auckland mayoral candidate. She actually stood down in the 2022 local body elections so that Wayne Brown could step in. So you've got her to thank for this. She is clearly a lovely individual. But on the opposing side, you've got groups like Auckland Disability Law, Amnesty International, the New Zealand Law Society, the Auckland City Mission, Common Law, which is the Community Law Association, the Green Party, the Salvation Army, the Spin-Off. The Herald Editorial Advisory Board came out against it, which is a really interesting one because that's made up of a whole bunch of right-wing voices. They've come out saying it's a bad idea. Just Speak, DCM, Labour Party, Lifewise, Wellington City Mission, Te Pāti Māori, the University of Auckland, Wellington City Council, and the New Zealand Human Rights Commission have all come out saying this is a really bad idea. When in 5-10 years' time history is written about this period, who do you think the historians are going to take as the side that we should probably be cheering for?
Like it is a common curse of the left, is that we're always right too early. Like how many times has it happened where our big sin is that we are right, but it's always too early. Have you ever noticed that? So I don't think it's going to be. Yeah, it's all of these people on the left that we see. You can bet your ass they're going to be distancing themselves from this policy and many other policies 10 years down the line.
Paul, can you tell me about that group you mentioned that you said was made up of largely right-wing pundits? I don't know. I'm not familiar with that.
That's the Herald.
Oh, so that's what you said. Okay, but yeah, I am familiar.
Over the last 12 months, the Herald's had a bit of a shake-up in the way that they editorialize stuff. So there was the board takeover by Jim Grennan. He tried to take over the board. He's that libertarian Canadian billionaire who funded people like Chantal Baker, and he's just paid for Julian Batchelor's defamation suit. He is well and truly down the rabbit hole. He has a ton of money and wanted to buy out the Herald. And initially when he tried to buy it, he had people who wanted to bring it on the board, and they said no. Their compromise was that they would allow him to create an editorial advisory board. That board would be the ones that set the editorial focus for the Herald and all Herald products. So Herald on Sunday, Herald Now, Ryan, all of that kind of stuff. The person who has been the head of that editorial board stepped down at the end of last month, and the person who's taken over is actually Christopher Luxon's former press secretary. So it's already very right-wing. There is, I can't remember his name.
I didn't know it was that bad.
Yeah.
I just had feelings, but that's so quite bad. Trump, who is very right-wing. He was a very right-wing commentator and a lawyer who I think is on the Waitangi Tribunal. And you've got, I think it's Mark Webbings is the other guy, who was somebody who was hired by TVNZ when they were first looking at the amalgamation with RNZ to the official term was he wasn't a lobbyist. He was there just to talk to politicians to get them to listen to his perspective on what they want, but not a lobbyist paid for with our money, who was a former researcher for John Key, Bill English, and Don Brash. Very, very right-wing advisory board, and they've come out saying that this is a bad idea and a horrible policy. Do you think they mean that, or do you think it's just optics? Because they don't have to commit to what they're saying. There's no commitment.
They don't have to, but I think it's also really fascinating when you tie it in with this slide, which is the media coverage that came out about Christopher Luxon on Friday. The Herald and News Talk, because they had the leak of the poll first, they really pushed hard on the Christopher Luxon's about to take a knee on this one and walk away. They were the ones pushing for this. So I'm starting to wonder if there's a little bit of love lost there. Why would people who have got such direct impact and direct relationship with Luxon be so quick to try and push him out the door?
This is like, and by the way, I would like to preface by saying this is a full-blown conspiracy theory. However, it is. However, if you are somebody within the National Party, or if you are part of one of these right-wing lobbying groups, and you knew that you had a loser on your hands with Luxon, what better way would there be than to release this poll? And and by the way, I'm going to get even more conspiratorial, and I have no evidence to back this up. I would like that to be made clear. Did the thought cross anyone's mind that perhaps the poll is exaggerated? It was from a right-wing poll, and Curia has been known to kind of be a bit sus. Has the thought crossed anybody's mind that they were like, let's get rid of this guy, let's give him disastrously low numbers, and this might force him to fall on his sword?
So there were rumors that came through during the polling period on Blue Sky and Reddit from people who claim that they were called by Curia about this. They said that they were pushed to change their answer, that they were coached in how to respond. And that's why Curia is not part of the regulatory board for political polling. They were called out on it in the past for something that they did with Family First, the Bob McCroskey outlet, for trying to coerce answers out of people. And instead of going, yeah, our bad, we won't do it again, they went, no, we actually want to keep doing it, so we're not going to be part of the body anymore. So it is entirely possible that this is something that's been pushed by the polling company, which has connections to ACT, and the Taxpayers Union, which has connections to the Atlas Network. There is a possibility for a big conspiracy there.
So as far as the framing goes, when you hear people like Ryan Bridge on his podcast grilling Nicola Willis saying, why are New Zealanders fed up with this government, he's not necessarily just talking about New Zealanders then, is he? If that were the case, he wouldn't really just be talking about quote-unquote New Zealanders. He would be talking very much about the right-wing establishment in this country. Maybe we're not the only ones fed up with their performance. Maybe the kind of external powers surrounding the National Party, they're just as fed up as we are with these guys, albeit for the wrong reasons, but still.
I think there's plenty of proof to support the idea that, plenty of information rather to support the idea that even the right aren't massively happy with Luxon. Just even how he the what was the mood of the boardroom thing that came out, where Luxon wasn't even in the top 10 of their most ideal leaders, and those are his people. So this is a guy who's typically the right-wing leaders always deliver for the right and deliver for the rich and take from the poor. But Luxon's a guy that came in to do that and is not even doing that efficiently. I think he's probably delivering for the ultra-rich, fine. But then the little, the mini-rich people, the lower down rich people, I think they're the ones that are most likely getting really pissed with him at the moment.
I was actually defending Christopher Luxon when that Mood of the Boardroom report came out. I was like, hey, I was going, hey, nobody has prioritized you guys more than any prime minister in the history of New Zealand than Christopher Luxon. You guys in your boardroom, there has been no prime minister who has done your bidding more than this man. You put some respect on Christopher Luxon. Yeah. That would be
he was dumb about it. I'm entitled. It only cost me $60 to do my groceries. I'm going to take a limo to cross the road to tell you I'm the new head of the National Party. He's been stupid about it.
Yeah. Supplementary payments, clean card discount.
Biggest welfare recipient in New Zealand.
He is.
The biggest welfare recipient in New Zealand.
Yes. Scary thought. However, because Laura has pushed me on this one, and I was going to do it anyway, and I thought this is the perfect timing for it. She does have an answer about who is going to replace Christopher Luxon. I think it's the best answer out there.
We need like a horn or something that goes when there's a real
I need one of those. I'm sure there's buttons here for that kind of thing. There's a gong. Or drum roll bongos.
Bree doesn't understand that reference, Paul.
I'm voter of the gong.
Yeah, I think
It's a good thing. We do also have another question that's come through from JC and the Pigeon Cats that we'll tackle before we hit the next topic. What are your thoughts on Jackie Blue jumping from Nats to Top, and generally Top's chances given the latest polling? Can they pull votes from National and New Zealand First?
I
Bree,
don't know
you did
Jackie Blue.
Yeah, Bree, you had a great Facebook post about this.
Yeah, I just think, I don't know. I just don't hate people because of what party they come from. I get that people, I've had a lot of people say that to me about things I've said about Brooke Van Velden and stuff like, oh, are you supporting Brooke Van Velden? I don't hate people just because they come from a party that has policies I don't like. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's always good if someone can acknowledge when something's gone too far. And I think it says something that their own females are leaving their party. And I hope they can steal some votes from National and New Zealand First. I don't think they'll get over the threshold anyway, but
Can you fill me in on that situation? I'm not across that at all. With Jackie Blue.
oh, just
So-
overall, you don't know what's happened?
No?
Yeah.
I've missed it completely.
Who wants to go for it? I can tell you. Basically,
Yeah.
Jackie Blue came out and she was part of the pay equity select committee of, they got the public to send in submissions. And yeah, she was like, this whole system, this whole process has been super corrupt. And so she's basically quit the National Party and moved to Top to help mentor their new leader. So I don't know if she's necessarily going to be like a representative in the party. I think she's just mentoring, which I think I wish more of them did that.
So
But,
this is a woman. Yeah, this is a woman who had been in the National Party for 50 years, right? Since the age of Muldoon. So she goes all the way back with this party. I'm of two minds. And first, it would be good for you, Jackie. It's good. It's always good and heartening where you see kind of people put their principles and their values ahead of their political party. There is bravery to that. I'm sure that the four of us would disagree with Jackie on most things politically, and that is where and that brings me to the second part. As great as it is to see Jackie kind of show these principles, it is a little bit concerning as somebody who has been kind of like, I don't really know what to make of Top. For them, like we had the discussion about Top in the last episode, where we kind of landed on them kind of, it seems, licking their finger and putting it to one to see where it blows. Them embracing somebody from the National camp, it does kind of, as somebody who wants to see a change of government, and as somebody who does, from what I've heard from Top, and sorry, forgive me, do we remember the leader's name? The leader of Top?
Q.
She
goes by
Q. I've been really impressed with her. The way she presents herself. I don't know. It does kind of make me think. Okay, it kind of leads more into the ambiguity about what this party stands for, because while they're embracing people from National, they have in the past embraced people who I know personally who are now part of the Greens, and I'm like, I have trouble reconciling with that. How can we, like, who are you guys as a party? Who are you? Are you the party of Jackie Blue, or are you the party of these?
Because they did their whole like leader process through a CCAD. I thought that was so weird. Like, do you not even have any members that wanted to be?
Yeah,
but last election they were talking about running AI candidates. So this is an improvement on that.
What? AI?
Yeah,
I didn't hear that. I
Yeah,
didn't hear
Rev-
about
Rev-
that.
Zero
Rev-
accountability
Rev-
off the bat, just AI.
yeah,
Who needs
yeah.
accountability?
Their
Just be
last
upfront.
leader, is it Raf Manji?
Yes, I remember Raph.
He was on Q&A with Jack Tame going, it'll happen, we're looking into the possibility of, the first AI candidate. It's like, no, you can't do that because they can't register to vote, so they can't be registered as a candidate.
They're not citizens.
Yeah.
That's insane. I didn't even know that. What the
Yeah.
fuck?
Yeah.
No. AI wasn't even
Jordan,
good
who have
enough
you got
then.
with you?
Oh, sorry. This
Do
is
you want to
Arwen.
introduce who you've got, Jordan?
This is Arwen. She's just had some food, so I'm rubbing her belly so that she goes poo outside. That's that's.
Do you live near the Wellington Harbour?
No, no. But oh my god, that's a separate story.
Just to piggyback off what Jordan said, he said this. He said this at the time where that old video of Will Smith eating spaghetti, the first one.
Yeah.
He was saying AI candidates before that.
That's insane.
Okay. Like he's gone now. He's not in the political space.
The new top party or the Opportunities Party.
Yeah, sorry. We should be calling them Opportunity. They go by Opportunity now. We need to kind of I'm starting the rebrand is starting to make sense.
Yeah, I'm personally always happy to accept people as they present themselves, and if they want to present themselves as Opportunity, that's all good. One of the things that I did find interesting, they've also got Ian Lees Galloway in their, I think he's in their management cycle, and he's former Labour. So they've got people from the two big left-right parties, but both centre-left, centre-right. They don't seem to have anybody high-profile from, say, ACT or the Greens that I know of that have come through.
Surprising to me because a lot of their messaging over the past few years even has felt very ACT. To me, just the way that it's even phrased, or even if I look at past things that their current candidates or current representatives have said, they felt quite ACT to me. I think maybe it's just an overall neoliberal wording structure that they've chosen. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So there is some definite neoliberal coding that you see in Opportunity. And like I've seen a few of their candidates as well, and when you hear them speak, they wouldn't seem out of place in ACT. However, at the other end of that, you hear a few of their other candidates and you're like, okay, you wouldn't be out of place in Labour. Dare I say you wouldn't be out of place in the Greens. And I'm just like, Opportunity does seem to have something of an identity crisis. Right now, they're not really presenting themselves as Opportunity. They're presenting themselves, you bet me to it, commenter, as the Opportunist Party. Don't you hate when that happens? Fuck.
No, it's great. It's great when the commentators when the people commenting are on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
You couldn't have waited like 3 seconds, bro?
That's being brilliant. So at this stage then, because I asked this question last month, at this stage, would you prefer to see TOP or New Zealand First as the centrist party? No, New Zealand First these days is not centrist, but they keep telling people they are. If we were to pick one centrist party for Parliament, TOP or New Zealand First?
TOP.
It would be TOP, yeah.
It'd be TOP. I don't see TOP grifting so hard as to suddenly start chucking out some anti-trans bullshit to win votes.
On Women's Day.
On Women's Day.
No.
Yeah.
Speaking of Women's Day, let's bring this back up to the stage. So happy Women's Day. I thought it would be a really good opportunity to go through and take a look at some of the changes that this coalition has brought in that specifically impact women, because there has been a few. I'm also really acutely aware of the fact that this is 3 men and 1 woman talking about women's things on Women's Day. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry.
We could take more input from our comment section as well.
Yes. So this is National New Zealand First and ACT and what they've done for women over the last 2.5 years. The big one, the cancelling of pay equity. $12.8 billion was how much was stolen, although they call it saved, but it was taken from those industries because those claims were in the process. Anybody got any feelings about this?
I'll never forgive them for this.
Mhm.
Good luck
Yeah.
getting me to stop talking about this till I'm dead.
It's one of
Yeah.
those things where I thought there would be, I don't know, not more anger, but more public outrage against it. I mean, if you kind of like watch the pollings before and after this, it didn't shift things as much as I thought it would shift things. It's such a piece of bullshit that it affects half of us, half of the country, you know? And I don't know.
I have something of a theory, and it's one that has really become prominent in the Trump era. And it's a good way, it does seem, for things, really bad things, to not stick to you, is by doing a whole bunch of bad things. It's the bed of nails principle. You step on one nail, you feel it. Step on a dozen, eventually it lifts you up. And that does seem to be, like, that would be my theory. Because yes, pay equity on its own, it would be spoken about in perpetuity in the media from commentators like myself and everybody else in the chat. And they would have to wear that like Flavor Flav wears a clock. But because they do so much other fucking heinous shit weekly, to the point that it's even hard for us to keep up with. Like every day I'm like, okay, well, I need to do a video on this, or I need to do a post on this. But then they do like 11 other things, and eventually I've forgotten the original thing I was meant to do. And I'm like, there does seem to be, there seems to be kind of like method to the madness of just doing a whole bunch of heinous shit, because eventually people collapse. The weight of the information just makes us collapse from it. So yeah, it's horrible. The pay equity law changes should be enough to disqualify them from ever governing again. I would add on to it, and I don't know if this is going to be coming up, but also the cutting sick leave as well. That's also going to disproportionately affect women. And cutting sick leave, I should say, for part-time workers, because who are the majority of part-time workers? It's women. And if you kind of look at part-time workers in the teaching profession, in nursing, it is women who are on maternity leave, or it's women who are kind of recovering from pregnancy, or it's mothers. It's women who are going to, it's not just, it's easy to say, oh, pay equity is the only law that has targeted them. But truthfully, they've done dozens of laws that have disproportionately targeted women that, again, we just don't have the time to talk about.
And like Marilyn's in that photo there, and she was at the pay equity launch day where they released this report. And like, there's so many national MPs that have come out, females that have come out to say that they disagree with this, that it's breaking the law, that it's an abuse of power, that it impacts men too, And it was like such a crazy day. Like everyone was so angry, I feel like, collectively at that event, because it's just so corrupt. But the good thing is they can use that report when they go back to court with any new claims to say, like, hey, you did cancel our claims and that was really unjust. So good things can come from that.
Yeah. And it is corrupt too, right? Because isn't the amount saved pretty much exactly what they needed to for the upcoming budget, which was only in like a few weeks after they did this? Incidentally, this
a few days.
Few days, right?
Like it was days.
It was very clearly something that they were like, oh fuck, we gotta make this up somewhere. Let's also do it. What is it? Was it like 4 days before Mother's Day?
Yeah.
Insane and it really is a sacrifice. It's like a group of people in charge of this country are looking at people to sacrifice, just kind of like just to throw out, and they chose women. It's insane.
I think it was also very clever of the coalition to use the backlash to create conversation, so it's not focusing on the issue that they've caused. Yeah. You've got Brooke Van Velden getting up in Parliament, having asked permission to say a naughty word that she was quoting from the paper, and then blaming Labour for that. That took away a little bit of the power of the conversation around what they'd actually done, and focused so much on the reaction to it. That just made people go, well, yeah, this kind of sucks.
Yeah.
So also, I don't know if anybody caught the news this week, which again is another kind of just another heinous fucking slap against women. And it's from Louise Upston, the clawback law. Has anybody heard about this?
I haven't heard much. Can you give us
the ACC one?
It is the ACC one.
This is difficult to explain. Can you? Yeah.
Yeah, it is. So it's something I myself am not kind of familiar with. I will say, from my reading of the story, it's basically when you are awaiting an ACC claim, you get supplemental income. And this clawback law is basically the supplemental income that you have received, you need to pay back.
Yeah.
And who is this going to? And again, there are, and trigger warning, there are many ACC claims that have to do with sexual violence and women having to take time off to recover from that.
Birth injury now covered by ACC too?
It may be, yeah.
Yeah, so it'll impact those people too.
So again, it's so you've got to kind of consider. And by the way, they would have had this data. They would have knowingly put in this clawback law, knowing that women going through the most traumatic thing that could ever happen to a woman, now they have to, in many ways, relive that trauma by having to incur debt because of it. This is a profoundly cruel policy from a profoundly cruel government. So happy. And again, this story comes out 2 days before International Women's Day. That's what kind of got me thinking about it, Jordan, when you mentioned that the pay equity law came before Mother's Day. And again, my conspiracy brain, do you think that's on purpose? Or do you think maybe there's just like a new shitty law, a new shitty thing they do to women every day, that it's always bound to land on one of them? I don't know.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was on purpose, purely because those two very obvious instances. And these people know about these things long before we do, long before it's even being announced. We're talking about it for a long time. So the dates in which these things come to fruition, in which they're announced, these are chosen. All of these dates are chosen.
And so they would be if I was in the National Party, and if it happens once, so let's say it happens once, and I'm within the National Party, I'm a decision maker, I'll be going, okay, we need to make sure that the next time something like this happens, we look at our dates so that people don't try and kind of connect anything nefarious to us. That's me as a layman kind of thinking like that. Either the people in charge are laymen as well, which to be fair could very well be likely, or it's on purpose. They're doing it on purpose. Yeah.
So to be clear, it's a situation where we're making it easier to put already harmed people, already injured people, already sick people into further debt. Debt they're accumulating whilst they await the financial help that they deserve. It is
so hard to advocate for yourself as well when you're sick. Like, nothing 100%. Harder.
That's what they're counting on too. That's why the first policies that come out go after students. That's why the first ones that go after disabled people. They don't have the time. They don't have the money. They don't have the capacity or health to fight back. That's why they need some podcasters to go out and talk about it.
So let's take a look at another great statistic here. There was $600 million lost in wage boosts to women by cancelling the fair pay agreements when they first got into power. It was one of the first things that they did under urgency, and that impacts the gender pay gap. in the last 2.5 years, the gender pay gap has grown to 21% for Wahine Māori and 24% for Pacifica women. That's between so those groups and middle-aged cis white men. So that is a fairly sizable gap there. When it comes to how much that impacts KiwiSaver per annum, Wahine Māori are $19,998 worse off. Pacifica women are $18,928 worse off. Over an entire working career, that's between $170,000 and $230,000 that those particular groups are going to miss out on when it comes to their KiwiSaver for their retirement. And the government also cut contributions in 2025 to KiwiSaver, which will therefore impact women more than it impacts men because they already earn less on their KiwiSaver.
And we
If
go
I'm
on
the
really
maternity,
cheerful.
and we don't get KiwiSaver when we're on maternity leave.
Nope.
Yeah,
I hate being a woman.
fair enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
This
Sorry.
this graphic you've got here, Paul, is a really good like physical representation of how the decisions that this government are making are generational. And I suppose it's something that I'm conscious of. It's not a fear that I have as such, but it is going to take consecutive governments making good choices to reverse what this government has done in only 2 years. This is a generational disadvantage that has been thrown into our society, and it's some real fucking bullshit.
And it's a waste of time because we are just going to try change everything they've done back. So why did you just waste all this money and time?
Because things are woke, and woke is bad.
It's because rich people need that money now, God damn it. We got to look after these rich people.
Damn those rich people. We also have this one here, frontline service cuts, because we were told frontline services wouldn't be cut, and then of course they were cut. Women-led professions were apparently the most impacted by these, and those professions that were most impacted included nursing, which is 89% female staff, midwifery, which is 99% female, care and support staff, 85%, allied health staff, 75%, ECE teachers, 97%, primary school teachers, 86%, secondary school teachers, 64%, and teacher aides, 90%. All of those have been impacted by frontline service cuts due to budget cuts to pay for tax cuts for landlords.
Sorry,
Impacted
essential
directly
workers.
hitting women. Yeah,
Those are
but we
essential
were told there'd
workers.
be no frontline.
I'll add essential workers who are meant to be spending money at businesses so that businesses can survive. I would like to know what are you creating by owning a house? What are you creating by owning 10 houses? It's such it runs counter to everything that the capitalist will tell you, doesn't it? It runs counter to everything that, hey, if we kind of give the means to the people who have established that they are creators, then it will create. Well, fuck off. We can see here it obviously doesn't. And I would just like anybody within National, and I know you're listening, I would just like you to consider. You guys think that Christopher Luxon is a poor choice? I agree. However, if there is a manifestation of everything the manifestation of all your policy positions, of all your economic principles, it is Christopher Luxon. He is the neoliberal right-wing final boss. He is everything you have been hoping for as a leader, and now that you've got him, you want him to fuck off because he's bad at it. He's bad at it because he is enforcing everything it is that you have claimed to stand for. So what is it? Is it that it can't just be that he's a shit leader, because he's doing everything that you have been advocating for decades. I want to know, like, if you were to ask these National people, what is it about Christopher Luxon you dislike? I would be genuinely curious, outside of, he's elitist, he's out of touch, all the kind of personal kind of character traits, set those aside. what policies of Christopher Luxon have you not liked? And I would be curious to see what their answer is. Genuinely, I
think it's the
would.
quarterly reports. Those give me corporate flashbacks. I hate them.
Yeah.
But they're not doing them anymore.
Like, you guys say you wanted tax cuts. Well, we got fucking tax cuts, and look what happened. Things turned to shit. So
Right.
now that things have turned to shit, can we acknowledge that maybe tax cuts is a stupid fucking way to run a government? Or regressive tax cuts, I should say, at least. Yeah. I don't know. Sorry, little tangent.
How many teachers are impacted? Because it's like, do they realize that all of those people are teaching your future voters? And like, do you think they're going to work and being like, wow, I love my job?
Oh, they were accusing us of indoctrination, man. That's what they were doing. They were saying, "Oh, teachers are indoctrinating." Here's the thing: no, we weren't, but we are now. No, I'm kidding.
You don't even have to. The kids see it for themselves.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You guys are indoctrinating them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember
right,
John
though.
Key coming to my school and walking around, and I remember thinking, what a fake smile. That's such a fake smile.
I really hope you weren't wearing a ponytail at the time.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
He came to my school as well, and it was one of the days I decided not to go. But he was there. He came to our school.
Wow. Did more
Bill
than-
English. Bill English's brother, this is just a personal story. He used to teach at St. Peter's where I attended. Really lovely guy, really nice dude. And one of the most embarrassing moments from my early adulthood was there was a 5-year reunion, and I got plastered, and I found him, and I just talked so much smack about his brother. And he was so nice about it, and I'm like, geez, I look back at that memory, and I'm like, I won't say his name, but you know, if you're listening, sir, I'm sorry.
You didn't deserve that.
You didn't deserve that. You just wanted a nice night, and you had some 23-year-old dipshit coming up to you, drunk as a skunk. Tell your brother to stop. Stop.
You
what?
You are right though in your description of Luxon being the kind of like personification of everything that they've said that they believe in, though, because Christopher Luxon is a CEO, right? I think he is genuinely a person who believes in the trickle down system, like actually does. And I'm not entirely sure if everyone else in our right wing parties does, or if they just promote it because it's beneficial, but because there's just so much to prove that it doesn't fucking work, and that it only works for, or it does work and works for that very top group of people. But I think Luxon is likely a guy who actually believes it, because he's come from very much benefiting from it and not seeing poor people at all. And he is a bit stupid.
I agree. Luxon does believe it. In fact, I'll go down the list. Luxon does believe it. Nicola Willis does believe it. Chris Bishop, and this is why I don't think he necessarily... That's why, although we say he's the best choice, he's still a pretty bad choice, because I think Chris Bishop is smart enough to not believe it. And if you see him in interviews alongside McAnulty or Carmel in the recent one, the man is very, if you look at his body language, he's very sheepish. He's got his shoulders closed in like a naughty schoolboy. He knows what he's about to say is bullshit. And that's why I think Chris Bishop, as kind of, although he's been kind of keeping his head down, he's been quiet these past couple of years compared to the more bombastic personalities within the National Party, which looks like it's about to kind of serve him well. I think he's going to have
a coup and failed.
Yeah, he did. But again, under the radar, right? He was slippery about it. Yeah. And Luxon doing something, and I never thought I would use the term gangster to describe Luxon, but here we are. I don't know if you guys knew this. Luxon ended up doing a speech. There was some kind of initiative rollout in Upper Hutt, which was Chris Bishop's electorate. Somebody else might be able to speak more to it. Now, Chris Bishop should be the guy kind of fronting that, getting his face in front of the camera, talking about it. But no, it was old Christopher Luxon the same week that Bishop tried to roll him under it was Luxon who kind of usurped him there and basically took credit in his home turf. I'm like, yeah, pretty gangster. Well played, Lux. Yeah.
I actually have called them gangsters before.
Yeah.
It was an interview I had a few years ago, actually in 2023, when we first started all of this, and we were talking about the then opposition party, National Party, was talking about being hard on crime, and they were talking about gang patches. It was their whole big bullshit thing on gang patches. And it seems like a wild thing to say, and I think Kahurangi Carter of the Greens touched on it briefly, but I grew up in a place where we would very much see the National Party as a gang, or the government itself as a gang, and they don't wear patches. But I think the point I was trying to make at the time is that, like,
insignia.
Yeah, I think the point that I was trying to make at the time was that, like, if I look at the poverty that affected my community, the poverty that I saw, that it wasn't gangs that brought in that poverty. It wasn't gangs that took funding away from the things that we needed. It wasn't gangs that created rules that made it harder for people to get the help that they needed through wins. It was always a guy in a suit. And so my argument was typically that I would say men in suits have done far more damage to my society than men in patches. Not promoting men in patches, obviously, but yeah.
That's well said.
I saw someone the other day with the move on orders. It came a couple of days before some big charity run where a lot of the politicians were out doing the raising funds for charity. And, that's not a bad thing, raising funds for charity. But what the question I was asked is, what is the difference between them out on the street with a bucket saying, do you have spare change, to somebody who's homeless out on the street going, hey, can you spare some change? They're doing the exact same thing. So what makes one acceptable and one not acceptable? What is the definition of a good cause that they're supporting? It all comes down to same actions, different definitions, and whoever's in charge making that definition be the one that works for them.
Has anyone, have the cops been taking the gang patches off of Destiny Church? Has anyone done that?
No, of course not.
I feel personally threatened by that.
Oh, yeah. Hey, I don't know if you guys have checked your private messages lately, but yeah, I've had plenty of reason to get concerned over some people within Destiny. Yeah.
That's why I'm not on Twitter no more. dangerous place. I literally had, it was, I think, the last time they did their we're going to march across the bridge thing, and it was about some bullshit reason, and I put some post up about why it was a bullshit reason. I had somebody go and take a photo of my front doorstep at night and then send it to me on Twitter going, we know where you live. Why the fuck do you think you can get away with saying this shit?
Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, so I blocked him. And then Elon Musk turned around afterwards and goes, you know what, he can come back. And I was like, no, I'm not going to go to a place that's clearly a dangerous place to be.
Why are people doing that? I heard someone say they knew where I live recently too. It's creepy.
I've had that. Yeah, I've had that. Yeah.
Same here.
But it's the left out of vain.
Look at that. I feel like it's a, what do you call it? Rite of passage? Yeah. But
it is something, so... almost a rite of passage. I don't want to promote it as that, but I've had a lot of new creators into the scene this year, which has been quite cool. Like overall, since as long as we've been doing this under this government, I've had new creators come up and ask me advice, but specifically this year, and I say new creators instead of young creators because some of them are not young. Some of these people really just want to get messages out there this year. And that is one of the things that I've said, and maybe people in the chat might benefit from hearing this as well, is that it is you do get a lot of that.
There are going to be moments where you find yourself a little bit shaken. Yeah. So nothing will come of it. 99 times out of 100, nothing will come of it. But yeah.
What I would say,
I went and reported that one. I went to the cops with it, and I was driving back, and I get a phone call from the police, and I'm like, oh shit, that was really fast. We're just letting you know that your driver's license is expired.
Oh,
thanks. I suppose there was some benefit out of it.
Yeah.
Good. You should report that every time.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
What I
People
will say is
shouldn't be afraid to report things online.
100% report it. I have developed I developed a thick skin early on, because very early on it was, I guess I was online mostly explaining how vaccines work. Just touchy subject there, science. But just explaining, not even telling people to get vaccinated, just explaining to people how they work. And how viruses work. And even I did interviews with a friend of mine who's a virologist, and I let him do all the really important stuff, talking about just educating people. That alone got me a lot of those kinds of messages. But it sucks that around about at that time, literally no subject that I've ever touched on has ever given me more hate and more of those kinds of messages than whenever I support trans rights.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I hope that that's dying down now, but back then, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, standing up for trans people was, and I was like, I'm not even trans, so imagine what they're getting, trying to stand up for themselves. Yeah, it's some bullshit, man.
Yeah, I was talking to Chloe and Marama a couple of weeks ago at the Big Gay Out, and they both said the same thing. Trans people just want boring lives. They just want to live their lives and not be the center of attention. And you've got a group of people out there who make attention around them so that they can get the attention, but it targets people who just want to live a boring everyday life. And it's like, yeah, makes perfect sense.
Yeah, well, we live in Wellington, me and Jordan, and it's quite a liberal city. And I feel like every trans woman I've come across in the bathroom has been great. I've never had a bad time. I think, if anything, we should all just have separate cubicles, because it's kind of weird that we pee and listen to each other do that.
I'm a big advocate for separate cubicles outside of even the trans issue. I just am a nervous pooper. So I want I'm all for it.
All right, that's a really good time for me to bring in this next slide about ideological coalition decisions that have also disproportionately impacted women. They include the targeted attacks on Māoridom, anything that sounds remotely Māori, like getting rid of Kaya Whina. Those roles are predominantly Māori. For those that don't know, it's a support role within a hospital. Smoke-free legislation disproportionately impacts Māori women, according to the research that they chose to ignore. Casey Costello chose to ignore, but she did get a mention in the New Zealand First Post, so she's obviously all for it. Lunch program changes disproportionately impacts women because they were predominantly hired to make it under the old system. So that's a loss of income coming through. And it tends to be women who would do the food at home and making sure that kids are fed and stuff like that. Nursing hiring freezes, predominantly women in the nursing field. Higher clinical wait times means that women aren't being seen as quickly, and some of the issues that they've got are really specific when they go to see a doctor. Whānau order access, again, predominantly women who use that. Silence, voices, and participation, as we were just talking about. Targeted attacks against women in politics, and in this space, we've got the former Prime Minister who's just moved to Australia. It's really bad. This government's prioritisation of free speech over safety also plays into that and disproportionately impacts women. And then there's those culture war talking points, which increase online gendered abuse. And I'm sure we've all seen it. We all know exactly how bad it is out there.
Yeah. Like, who's going to be happy about this? Like, if you were to give me one word to describe the person who would be happy about this, who would it be?
Brian.
Who would one? Yeah, like if you were to give a title to the person who would be happy about, and again, it goes back to that thing of vice signaling. It's deeply kind of cynical, and to me it's depressing, because we have obviously got a government that has such a low opinion of Kiwis to think that there are enough of us out there who would be happy with this culture war bullshit, who would be happy with this. And that's kind of what always offends me more. It's like, whenever they come out with the trans stuff, it's like, do they think there's enough people in New Zealand who care about this? And I mean that. I get there are people who do care passionately about it. on the Brian Tamaki end of things. But as Chloe's told you, these are just people who want to live boring lives, and we've all got groceries. This is not something that's on our mind. Who is this for? Who is this for? And the person that it's for, is there a lot of them? Is there enough of these people where the juice is worth the squeeze? Where you guys are going to come off looking like really shitty people. And if you were going to, and sometimes that is the point. Sometimes they think, what can we do to look like shitty people? Because there are enough shitty people out there that it'll be enough to get us over the line. I simply don't think there's enough shitty people in New Zealand to buy into this shit. And I'm wondering, do they have different data than we have, than our lived experiences?
I think they have different things in place. So it's like doing these shitty things to appeal to this shitty group of people, whilst also removing the ability to enroll and vote on the same day, whilst also making it easier for people to be pipelined into being considered criminals and put in prison so that they can't vote. It's in tandem with all their actions that they're doing.
I also feel like National are making women front all of those decisions. And so it's hard to criticize, especially as a woman, because you feel like, oh, it's just a woman hating on another woman. It's just a cat fight. And it's not, you know, that I feel like we see that a lot in kind of our area as well, just things getting belittled to that when actually there's a lot more nuance and discussion to be had. So that's really annoying.
Luxon left, right, during the pay equity thing. Didn't he just go overseas? There's been several really big things like that where Luxon's like, fuck, better jet.
Has he travelled overseas more than any other prime minister?
I would love to know. I was thinking that the other day.
Yeah.
I was like, that guy's never here.
You sounded like Trump.
Did I?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, to be fair, the National Party prime ministers in particular, really bad when they go overseas. When Bolger did it, he got back and he was out of a job.
Yeah.
So
That's actually what I thought was.
To be fair.
That's what
Winston
I thought
takes
was
his wife a lot
happening.
on his trip overseas. He takes her on like every flight. We're like paying for it, the taxpayer.
Oh, yeah, that's not so nice.
Go alone.
Yeah.
That might be why he's always after that job.
That's my mum.
I've got no problem with the travelling. I've got the problem I've got is him coming back.
Hey, Nikki.
That's my mum.
Hey, Nikki.
Oh, hey.
Love your work. Love your advocacy.
Uh,
I think he is, though, in truth. Well, not Winston. I think Luxon is. Like, this is the thing about Luxon is that at the end of all this, people that think that he actually gives a shit will have to deal with the fact that if he loses, he will definitely leave. He's not hanging out. That guy's going. He's 100% leaving. He doesn't want to be an opposition leader. He does not care enough to stick around.
Economy.
He's absolutely leaving. And so all these people that are like, no, he cares. We're going to support him. I'm like, you're going to have to deal with that when he very clearly shows you that he does not care. Homeboy's going to Australia. He's going to go to America. He can't get enough of America. He promotes it whenever he can. He keeps telling us that he was there for 11 years for work. He's going back. He's going back, and he's going to do his weird family pajama photos over there. Sorry to bring that up. That's a separate thing. It's just on the back of my mind. Sorry for bringing that up.
There would the only thing worse than talking about Christopher Luxon and his family pajama photos is somebody doing a video where he used that as the background for one of his posts. Only a crazy asshole would do that.
My favorite thing about the pajama photos, this is not a subject for tonight, but it's just like this is my background. I'm always thinking about what the background people have chosen. He is very clearly, and his family are trying to choose the nicest but least rich corner of the mansion that they're in. Every single time they're like, oh, we'll do the front door because everyone's got a front door. And it's this giant stained glass window. They're like, oh, we'll do over here by the little Christmas tree because they've got a bigger one. They did a photo by the little one.
You would think they would have jumped at Premier House then for Christmas, since it's supposed to be old and dilapidated and not quite up to their mansion standard. They could get quite a humble photo in their pajamas at that place.
God, I would hate. I don't want photos. My mum's not even famous, but I'm not doing pajama Christmas photos.
No.
And with the family. Not doing that.
But I find it hilarious how the other National Party MPs are doing it as well now. Like,
Are
it started
they?
off with just Hudson, and then
Wait,
the
what's
last
Simeon
couple of
doing?
years,
At Christmas, guys,
yeah,
us
Chris
four.
Bishop's done it. Nicola's done it. I saw Ryan Hamilton did it last year. Like, it's just this weird national thing about we've got to put up our pajama photos because the boss does, and it's like,
Yeah.
come from the South and just don't.
I saw Simeon do it, and I thought he was one of the children.
Oh.
I was like, who is this lady with her kids?
Yeah, I did love though how he had to put something out. Simeon had to put something out going, I can prove that I can drive. The rumor went around for ages that he couldn't. It was brilliant.
Absolutely wild. You know what I keep getting sent though? And I don't know why people send it to me. I'm not from the hut. I'm not from Bishop's electorate, but I keep getting photos of Bishop's car, either poorly parked, or I got a photo of him sleeping in it by the looks of things at one time.
I got
took a photo.
that one.
He should be
Yeah,
moved
that one?
along.
Yeah, I
Somebody
got
else,
that one too.
somebody also sent me a photo of his car with no
Oh my God,
tires.
mate.
I was like, where did his tires go? Yeah.
Yeah, I got the one with him sleeping in his car. And then I can't remember who sent it to me. Sorry for not saying who, but yeah, it's funny that.
Is near my house, and it's constantly got graffiti on it, and then every week he gets it cleaned, and I'm like, how much money are we spending cleaning off the graffiti off his wall?
Yeah. Was it his office that got vandalized?
Yeah, it was his office that got
man.
vandalized.
That's crazy, man. With this massive dip in ram raids, I'm so surprised.
But he's never there. Trust me,
He's
I drive
not.
past it every day. He's never there.
Yeah, that's
Jenny
right. He's
and
right
Krishna
there.
are always at their office in Wainui.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that they're pushing the ram raid thing again, because it is the easiest thing to point to the data and go, this is how you're fucking lying to people. And they keep doing it.
Can I just
like
say one
it's
thing?
all assault data.
Yeah, because it's like gang numbers up, police numbers not up, gang numbers now outnumber police. So now they're going really hard on tough on crime stuff. Can I just say one thing that they're doing recently that I'm super not on board with? Is that whoever's doing this stuff is just, I don't know if you've noticed, but they've done 2 posts where they've clearly just taken photos of Wellingtonians from like their window. It looks like it's at the Beehive. And then they're just
it's like looking down at the monument.
Yeah. And then just putting words on them. But I was like, don't take
Oh
photos
yeah, I
of
saw that.
people walking around on
Walking?
lunch.
Yeah.
I walk around on lunch. What are you doing? Yeah. Use stock or something. I don't know. Go earn the photo.
Wellington's a big city. You could get so many different awesome photos. You don't just have to get one that's, let's look down the stairs because I can't be asked walking down the stairs.
It looks like it's from the office. The angle. I'm just like, you're just taking photos of random people in the street.
Jeez, the one time they don't use AI for their posts and they still make it unethical.
And creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is your real stuff creepy? It's real.
It's that creeping.
Yeah.
Because that party, the National Party has so many ties, especially to fundamental Christianism, that it ends up with a whole bunch of super creepy candidates and MPs. And there's a lot of them out there. They lost a couple last election because there was some really creepy stuff that they're doing, like sexism. I think was one in Tairi that was really sexist. There was, I think, one in Auckland who had been caught scamming a whole bunch of people who was running for Auckland Central. Like they get the worst candidates, but the press comes down harder on the left when something dodgy happens. So you might have, ACT lost 6 candidates in the lead up to the last election who were all cookers. And then you have a couple of issues with the Greens, and you look at what happened to Golriz, and you've got weeks and weeks of media coverage there. You got 2 days max media coverage of what happened with Tim Jago or with the other ACT candidates that pulled out.
Do you think it's because we hold ourselves to a high standard?
Yes.
That's part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Part of it for sure.
It is annoying. It is annoying. And, take the Benjamin Doyle scandal. I'm doing that with quotation marks for the listeners. I do recall plenty of people on the left throwing Benjamin under the bus. And that was without even knowing the full story. And we spoke, and people still like to cite, Bussy Galore as if it was some big Watergate scandal. And again, you say Tim Jargo's name to the normie, nobody's going to know who the fuck you're talking about.
And that's on purpose.
He's on lockdown right now.
Yeah, I would like to remind people, if there are still people out there who think that Bussy Galore was a scandal, and I said this at the last episode, my first email account used to be called Sackmaster69 at hotmail.com.
I would have taken that to the grave.
No.
I had no idea that you were such a big fan of potato sack racing.
I admire you for admitting that. I'm not going to tell people my Xbox username from 2013, but I admire you, and I'm in the same boat.
I love it. That's so good.
No, the reason I was Sackmaster is because I was the master of sacks, and nobody is going to take that title away from me. But I do say it as to just make a wider point. Yeah. I make a wider point here of, hey, this is just something funny that we can all laugh at. It's just a funny little name. And that's all. When I heard about the scandal, that's all Bussy Galore was to me. It's just a funny little irreverent name. That's all it was. And
there's also it's a cultural term, isn't it? It's an in crowd, and so they took advantage of the fact that most people wouldn't know, so they could purposely mislead them into thinking that it was something else more nefarious. But
losers.
Yeah. Ben was lovely.
Yeah.
Honestly, like one of the kindest people I'd ever spent time with. Ben was fantastic.
Yeah.
Still fantastic.
Something tells me I'm not going to get any shit for Sackmaster though. And I don't know what the difference is between me and Ben. I can think of one big one, but
I know. Is it because you're in Auckland and he was from the Waikato?
Yeah, that's it.
Speaking from experience, I know people from the Waikato get a whole bunch of shit just for being from there. And completely unfounded. If you look at our stand-up MPs, Tama Potaka and Ryan Hamilton, you'll see that we've got the highest caliber nut jobs in the country.
Sorry, people in the comments are kind of, I think just to kind of give context to Sackmaster. So, S for Sean, S for Sean, Ack for Ackland, Sack. There, just in case you're wondering the origins of that.
Classic.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. See, did you want me to put that onto the fact check list that I've got on the website?
Just change his username in the chat here.
Yeah, to Sackmaster. Don't forget the 69.
I will also back to ACT though, and like how fast people moved on from the Tim Jargo stuff. I'll also remind people that it was 2023 or 2022 when ACT had a slew of misogyny and sexual harassment allegations and stories within their staff, within Young ACT, with, I believe, a quote from one of their members who left saying that it was not a safe place for women. It said it was not a safe place for women. They said that they had made complaints, had gone to the top, done everything that they could do to try and take these issues of misogyny and sexual harassment to the places where they needed to be, and they felt ignored by them, and even felt that the people who were doing those things were almost vindicated or rewarded. That's the history, that's the background of the ACT Party leading up to all of that. It still doesn't get as much talk.
No. If I remember correctly, the person who came up with the laser Kiwi flag is actually a former ACT Party candidate who ran while David was still in charge and has transitioned since they were a candidate. And I remember reading something at the last election, because David must have said something anti-trans that got a little bit of coverage. And it was, that's not the David I know. Like there's clearly a capture there for a specific audience, and he's playing up for it. When it was, when we were dealing with him, he just didn't give a shit. You know, it's just David being David. Now he's playing up because he's popular.
It is audience capture. You've got to keep in mind, David Seymour for many years, until recently, I think he's kind of distanced himself from the libertarian label. But the whole idea of libertarianism, if you were to kind of ask for the most simplistic definition, it would be do whatever you like as long as you're not harming anyone else. And that does lend itself to more kind of socially progressive policies. It leads itself to kind of anti-war sentiment, to pro drug legalization sentiment, none of which David Seymour seems to be at least vocally in favor of. And there has been, and I do think that as a person, like, and when I say this about David, I'm speaking nominally, not effectively. Nominally, as a person, David Seymour probably does have libertarian beliefs. I think we kind of have seen a few hints of that with his role in the end of life choice bill. We've seen that in other kind of bills that he has introduced from his kind of when he was less of a name, if that makes sense. But he for whatever reason, the ACT Libertarian Party has seemed to have captured the people who are too young to be voting for New Zealand First. And you know, David Seymour has probably had to correct course and kind of lean into that. Yeah.
No.
David's so depressing to talk about.
Yeah.
Nobody should talk about David.
He's very skilled. I don't want him to know that I've ever said that, but it is. If I look at his history, which I think people should, which I think people should, his wording and the things that he advocated for and against in Canada are very telling of where he is now. I don't want people to spend any money on his book, but it is worth noting that he does have a book. And I believe there's a chapter called Democracy, Too Much of a Good Thing, or at least that's a quote from the book. He has exposed his true feelings towards things in the past in his prior roles over in Canada. And so there is a consistency of being anti-Indigenous, for one. He was a real enemy of Indigenous people over in Canada. And I think even don't quote me on this, but I think he was like very anti-public transport. It was one of those smaller subjects he was given over in Canada to deal with. So he has been very well versed in language, so much so that he can be quite convincing to people who don't know how to spot it.
I will say this. David Seymour, in that chapter, Democracy, Too Much of a Good Thing, I haven't read the chapter. I've kind of just seen the first page from a screenshot somebody sent. And the first page alone, he basically said that people shouldn't have the right to vote as just this thing that's given to them because people are too uninformed and that voting should be means tested. And I will put this out there because David Seymour and I do have one thing in common. We are both authors. I wrote a book, and I can tell you it's one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. It was extremely time-consuming. It took years for me to do. It took rewrites. It took editing. It took all these it took a lot of work. And I thought when I saw David's book, I'm like, David Seymour probably had to work as hard as I did on my book to try and get the message out there that people shouldn't have equal rights and equal access to voting. That's how much he believes it, that he's going to work this hard to get that message out there. That's where my mind went.
That's a really good point. And a horrible point, but that's a good point. You know.
Yeah, thank you, Edward. I see your comment there.
That's so
Appreciate
cute.
it. Yeah. Love the good vibes. Everybody else is roasting me over the Sackmaster comment.
It was very brave of you to explain it.
You guys think I'm embarrassed by that? I feel like that illustrates how cool I used to be.
I'm not going to roast you. I've had many usernames. Absolutely not going to roast you for that one.
Y'all going to come at
Xbox was a different place in the early 2000s.
Y'all going to come at the Sackmaster?
I'm going to show you guys an interesting little stat from my research from my website. When it comes to the decisions that have been put through by this coalition government, there's a whole bunch that all three political parties or two political parties agreed on, so they don't count when it comes to individual policies having gone through. ACT outnumbers the other two coalition partners. And that's because when you do something like the Ministry of Regulation, you pull from a whole bunch of other little acts and laws and stuff like that to get what you want done. But there have been more act policies passed in this term of Parliament, standalone policies, than there has for New Zealand First, which still beats the number of standalone policies for National by 1.
This is how incompetent he is, Luxon.
Yeah.
Like, he really sold himself as this master negotiator. That was debunked before the election, but no one saw, no one got hold of that information. But he's
because
he's
you just
not a
need to get to
negotiator.
know him.
Yeah, this is the worst negotiator. The worst. Was it the treaty principles bill wasn't even like an end all be all thing, and he just still put it through as a negotiation? Yeah, it's so incompetent.
Yeah, he is.
Do you reckon Judith Collins is stoked to watch him crash and burn, or
oh yeah,
is she on side? Is she gutted? Because was it because he rolled her, right? Didn't it go?
Yes, yeah. He rolled.
Yeah,
he rolled
but
her.
she lost the election, so it was basically
yeah.
Okay, I'm done. I'm walking away. He was put up without anybody going against him.
So wasn't it Simon Bridges who was? I'm having trouble remembering this. Was it Simon Bridges who fucked things up for her? Yeah, he basically kamikazed. It was a kamikaze attack against her, right? And they both ended up paying the price. Yeah.
She did defend him pretty hard in the news the other day, though.
Like she wants to keep that job.
Yeah, I'm not stoked about the job that she's getting.
Yeah.
It's not great for anyone. Nobody wins with that. She leaves, but she doesn't leave.
Yeah. But she sticks around for ages, forever. But she can't hang out with her friend Kirsty.
Noam, that's right. Yeah, Noam's out after spending 220 million on a single ad. See that?
I don't buy it. I don't buy that's the reason. No.
Oh, no. I don't think it's the reason. Yeah. But that's insane.
But, that is an insane amount of money to spend. She spent a superhero franchise on that ad.
Yeah.
She that's where did the money go? Because it didn't show up on the screen.
Yeah, which is insane to us, but it wouldn't be insane to them. They wouldn't care, so it's definitely not the reason.
No.
So it'd be something
I would love to know what it was, because there was definitely another reason. Was it that? I don't know. Maybe it was self-promotion. Maybe Trump didn't like that. But I saw the ad. She was glazing him in that commercial. So that can't be it.
Trump rotates his staff really fast, though. Can you hear the dog?
Yeah, I can hear.
Oh, sorry. Quite a lot, though. He really does rotate them out. It's always... it's either like they didn't want to go far enough, or they just got caught in too many things, or they're about to get caught in something big.
Well, that's the thing with her being in so much of the late night stand-up stuff at the moment around an alleged affair that she's got with somebody that she's working with. They're all talking about that really publicly, which implies that there is quite a bit of fire where there's smoke, because it's not the sort of thing that you would normally see pulled out into the public sphere.
Yeah. Anyway, she's Judith's friend.
Yeah.
Judith's words.
Exactly.
She said, "This is my friend."
Yes. Yeah.
I believed her.
I believe her.
Yeah, first honest thing she said.
Yeah. You didn't buy that she was going to church when she went to church, or people were stopping her in the street when she walked down K Road?
I remember that photo. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, where she's like praying. Wild. What a wild, just to try and quickly get the last, scrape the bottom of the barrel for some Christian votes. Wild. Such a move.
Yeah. I suppose it didn't really work for her going, my husband is Samoan, so Talofa. It didn't really buy her into the Pacific Island voting base.
What's Samoan for goodbye?
Tofa. Yeah. That's the first thing I posted when she lost her job, was Tofa Judith.
Perfect.
With the Samoan anthem.
Perfect. Who wants to tackle the sticky question?
Let's triple team it. What do you think, guys?
Yeah.
Okay. let me just hide the current comment. So an event I was at on Friday, somebody actually came up to me with this one and like, oh yeah, this is an interesting one. So I come from a family of proud national voters for generations. My parents wouldn't ever dream of voting left. They see Winnie as an opportunist, he's as a grifter, and David Seymour probably has skeletons in his closet, and they can't stand Luxon. This year, they've started talking about not voting at all, and I kind of want that to happen. But I also really believe everyone should have their say in an election. Any advice, panel?
Can I just tackle that the family of proud national voters think that David Seymour likely has skeletons in his closet?
Yeah.
They just think he probably does. They're just likely. That's interesting to see people even on that side get that feeling. They're like, nah, it's something else. Wild.
Yeah.
Sorry, that
There's a
stuck
vibe.
up. Yeah.
Again, it's one of those things like, what would a reasonable person conclude when after Tim Jargo, after the Snapchat stuff? I'm not saying that David Seymour is guilty of anything. However, I would forgive you for thinking that.
He has a history of bad company.
Yes, he does have
But that
a history
enough
of
is
bad
like
company.
that's bad association. Automatically.
Like, yeah, I'll just put this out there. How many have you known? You know, like how many have you defended? How many of you have?
All right.
Yeah. Anyway, going back to the question. So I think high voter turnout is always a good thing. I think high voter turnout is always a good thing, even when it's the party that I didn't want to win who wins. I feel like the more of us that show up, the more obligated politicians are going to be for us. Historically, when you have looked at elections where there have been low voter turnout, what has followed has been nothing but shit policies, and we have seen it with this election. So I would now, on a personal level, like, it's one of those things. Like, sometimes what Sean wants is not necessarily what is good for society, and this is kind of one of those moments. What Sean wants is your family not to vote if they're national voters. However, it's good for society if everybody takes part. That's yeah.
And also, if they're a family of proud national voters, then they should be comfortable going to the leader of the National Party and saying, hey, like, right now the leader is not doing it for us. Like, in a good democracy, you should be able to do that, you know? Because we've got the best people in the role. If you don't think he's the best person in the role, you should tell the party that.
I would just like to kind of point out, I think, some Simon D's comment that there is a place for them with Opportunity Party. Up until last week, I would have disagreed, but with Jackie Blue entering the fold, maybe that could be a route for a lot of national voters to go down. If that's where opportunity is going to be, if that's where the wind is blowing opportunity, that could be an option for the disillusioned national voter.
I think also if they are your family that are this way, then you are the perfect person, you know, assuming that you are consuming this media here on the left, to have a conversation with them about left-wing, more logical alternatives. And you can do that without telling them to vote that way. I find often you can just ask people logical questions and they'll generally end up over on this side anyway, when we look at the history of decisions made on the left and how they benefit the most of us. I'm an advocate for making sure that everybody votes, even if they vote that way. I'd prefer that even if it was a government that I didn't want, that it was a government that represented the most amount of people. And then at least then I know how much work I need to do in society to educate people further if it does end up on that side. Also a controversial theory, Australia, I think they have compulsory voting. I do think it's a right to not vote, but what I would like to see is people say they're not voting. So I think what would be really cool is for people to still have to go to the booth, but just tick a nobody box, but at least participate in the going to the booth part is the bit that I would like to see. Because when I often get commenters say, oh, well, if New Zealanders don't want this, because I'll often say, this isn't what New Zealand is about when talking about government policy under Luxon. People say, well, if this isn't what New Zealand wants, why did they vote National in? My argument is they didn't vote National in. Largely, New Zealanders didn't vote. And so scraping the bottom of the barrel, the least liked party, the party with the most least numbers, combined with two other parties to form a government and still only just scrape through, whilst most New Zealanders didn't vote. And so the party that won is really nobody. So everybody should vote. I'm also an advocate for bringing back those damn stickers that say, I just voted, because I think putting my marketing hat on after years of being in marketing, that is what I think a lot of people, what got people to those polling booths, was seeing that the people around them, like on Anzac Day when they see everyone else wearing a poppy, was seeing them with their stickers saying, I just voted. So in saying that, I'm also trying to get people to enroll. Is there some kind of way that we can indicate I just enrolled? Is that a thing? I know people don't use. The
Commission should be doing this.
Yes. Like even Facebook, when people got vaccinated, they got that little picture that says I'm vaccinated. But I feel like no one's really on Facebook anymore. But if I could have
that really makes people angry. Yeah.
If I could get one that says I just enrolled or I'm enrolled, I think that would also be good.
Yeah.
We got stickers in Wellington. Did we last time? I didn't get them, but yeah, I think that's a big part of it.
I want stickers.
I want stickers.
So any other thoughts on the question?
Tattoos on exposed skin.
I'm enrolled.
Really commit to the bit. Really commit to the bit, guys. So good.
So we go through some of the answers that have come through from the audience. A quick reminder, 298 days since the government gutted pay equity, 244 days until we vote this government out.
Unless there's a snap election. This is what I also wanted to point out quickly is we were talking about the possibility of Luxon not coming back in that event. There is a possibility that Winston most likely could trigger a snap election, and in that moment, considering that we cannot enroll and vote on the same day, heaps of people right now in this moment likely would not be able to vote. So it's not enroll before election day. It's enroll now when you guys finish watching this, or even now if you're on a computer, open up another tab. Just fucking do it.
Vote.nz, super easy.
Super easy. I also have like a link in my bio, not trying to send everybody there, but if you wanted to do it there, I'm tracking how many people go through that link at the moment, just so I can keep tabs on how many people are going through and enrolling, and whether or not I need to push that message out there even more each time. In the chat, maybe afterwards, I'll link people to, I forgot his name, but he's working with Bloody Samoan quite a lot. Tiriti, I forgot his username, but he's doing every single day until enrollment day, and then probably until voting day, he's doing a post encouraging people to vote every single day until the last day.
So demographically, this is an audience of one in terms of who we want to get vote. It's mostly young men. That is mostly young men. They're the ones who are overrepresented and not showing up to vote. If you are a young woman watching this, I think I would just like you to kind of, I'm sorry, this is like just a germ or something I know. It was an Asian country where the woman decided that they were going to withhold sex until there was like
Korea?
It might have been. Yeah.
Korea.
Honestly, young women do that with men in terms of, I know where their priorities are. And,
listen to Sackmaster.
Listen to Sackmaster. He knows what he's talking about. Be patriotic.
This is the person that you were talking about, Jordan? Tidity me, right?
Yeah, Zane. Yeah, this motherfucker doing the hard yards, man. He's committed to posting every day, getting people to get those votes out there, get people enrolled. He also had a brilliant, this is where the arts come in, a brilliant sign that he had at the rugby the other day, which said enroll to vote, but he'd highlighted.
NRL?
Yeah, thank you very much, NRL.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Oh no, Sackmaster might be responsible for a sudden increase in lesbianism.
Right, let's go back to some of the other answers.
That's a comment, guys. It's a comment.
So there was this one from Magenta as well, pointing out that in America, it's the start of daylight savings, and therefore Women's Day only gets 23 hours to celebrate.
Fuck my dick.
Some of the suggestions that we've got here for answering our sticky questions, sit them down and make them watch a week of BHN.
Yeah. Actually, though.
Tell them to vote Top or the Cannabis Party, because at least you know what you're getting with the Cannabis Party.
You know what you're getting with the Cannabis Party. I don't know what the fuck you're getting with the Top Party.
That's the issue.
Yeah.
What are you guys
To be
doing?
fair, though, how many policies has Top actually released when you compare it to something like National?
Yeah, good
National has
point.
released actual policies,
Yeah.
but they want to protect the harbour and bring in LNG. Like there's
Was that Top?
No.
Was that National?
no, that's National. National.
See,
wants to do
I
the
don't
thing
even know what
about-
Top. What
Yeah, that's it exactly.
do you guys want?
I thought
But
they
they're the
used to
same-
want 4-day work weeks and I was all
Yeah.
for that and universal basic income, and then they just haven't mentioned that at all. And I'm like,
Oh yeah, years ago they
went
had some
right back to
housing.
the drawing board.
Yeah, they had
Yeah,
some good
so-
housing stuff. I remember that I
Yeah.
was like, oh, that sounds good.
Yeah.
And then wasn't there? Were they the guys that wanted to kill cats?
Yes,
someone
Gareth
did
Morgan.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That was like why Gareth Morgan started it. That was his big thing.
That was why.
That was one of it. Yeah,
Isn't it
nobody
amazing?
else was talking about the dangers of cats.
But it's interesting, Bree, you bring up that's those used to be their policy positions. This was like in 2017. I will kind of note that American politician who was getting a lot of popularity and a lot of traction at that same time was Andrew Yang, and then who was also a big proponent of the UBI. Fast forward, and what was the early 2020s the era of? The early 2020s were the era of the enlightened centrist, and we saw that with Top back in during Raf's reign as the proponent for AI politicians. And now I feel like again this has been the history of Top. Let's do this. Let's put our finger up, see where the wind is blowing, and let's just go that way. So if you want to know where they're going to stand, perhaps look over to America. What is right now? What seems to be the kind of fringe, the most popular fringe ideology that's kind of happening. It could be because America, there seems to be a bit of a love affair with Ezra Klein and his book Abundance, which is basically just code for more neoliberalism. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the route that Top go down, and which would make all the sense in the world that they're accepting somebody like somebody from within the National Party. But yeah.
That concerned me when I saw.
Mm.
Yeah, just concerned me when I saw their interview with the leader of the party, who said that they're proudly centrist.
Yeah.
Proudly centrist, and the
Who's
concern for
proudly
me there is that I feel like centrist means you don't stand for anything,
Mm.
generally, but also it's like who's center, America's center or our center? Because American Democrats are further right than our right wing. So
what can a
where's
centre
the center?
be? Like the
Yeah.
Overton window shifts all the time.
Exactly.
How are you-
Exactly. The
Yeah.
political center cannot exist as long as the Overton window exists. So the political center is not a real thing. I would just wish,
Paul, you really taught me a lot about the Overton window when I first
I'm
got into
sorry.
politics, and now I think about it all the time.
Yeah. I think
If
last
it
time,
would have been-
2023, in 2023, I remember the spokesperson said, we'll work with anyone. And I was like, even then, I was just like, instant turn off. And then now to say you're proudly centrist, I'm like, boom, turn off again. What the hell?
Yeah.
Proudly standing for nothing is wild.
If you stand for nothing, you'll fight for nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And defend no one.
Yeah. Laura says the answer is the parents don't have to worry about dreams. They can vote for the left for real. We also have at least one don't vote. If they choose not to vote. Brother Monk here with, I've always thought it's up to the individual and can understand this is that they believe that no one represents them. I get that. There are a whole bunch of people who feel that they're not represented in Parliament.
Oh, can I quickly jump on that though? There's lots of people that I find say shit like, oh, don't vote, it doesn't make a difference, they're all the same. What I find is that they're listening to the things on the right that the right say about themselves, and then they're listening to the things about the left that the right also say about the left. You know? So I'm just like, that's where you've got it twisted, you know? I found a lot of those people when I started questioning them, and I'm like, why do you think it's all the same? And I was like, oh, you've listened to the bad things about the left from the right, and you listen to the good things about the right from the right. No wonder. And this is also a tactic of the right. You know, they don't want a high voter turnout. So the overload of information, the political exhaustion on the public, this is a tactic to make people switch off. They absolutely want us to switch off, to not pay attention, to be overwhelmed by it so that we don't participate. And the kind of like biggest thing that proves that your vote does make a difference and would not be advantageous for the government is that they have actively tried to make it harder for you to do by removing same-day enrollment. That to me instantly says, well, since same-day enrollment typically doesn't work for you, you are obviously anticipating people not voting in your way. And so actively putting in things to stop that, that to me is a really big sign that voting does matter.
Right, we have Laura here with, not voting is a valid option if they're right wing. And James saying, too many people think of politics like sports teams. And I get that as well. Yeah. Magenta has a great suggestion here. Encourage them to discuss the political issues that they aren't happy with and talk about Labour and Green policies that should combat those issues.
Yeah, that's kind of what I touched on before. It's like the policies, the political issues that you aren't happy with is Luxon and those, like, are these policy positions that you would have been a feature, that would have been what gravitated you towards Luxon. I think a conversation like that could also be had of, hey, what you got, the policy positions that you guys have embraced, well, we've seen them roll out and they've netted bad results, and we have, and it's exposed Luxon as a really terrible prime minister. Do you think maybe the policy positions that you're supporting need revisiting?
Or they're just believing the outcomes narrative of Luxon. Because I find if you just engage in those conversations, like, all right, well, typically we'll get the right wing will go, what's their main thing in my comment section is, what about Kiwi Build? And it's like, okay, cool, stop you there. What about Kiwi Build? Fantastic question. I'm assuming you're answering that because you care about the housing crisis and you want more houses built. Well, I'm happy to tell you that more houses were built under Labour in 6 years than under the previous national government of 9 years. Surely that should make a difference. It typically doesn't. And then they're like, oh, well, what about law and order in the economy? I'm like, oh, fantastic. You care about law and order in the economy. I'll let you know now that actually what we did under progressive governments cost us less and had better results. Whereas typically under national successive times, it has cost us more money and proved worse results. So that must be something you care about. There's information that we can combat so long as we can get these people to agree on what it is that they actually care about. Then we can be like, well, stats show this, facts show this, you know?
Stop
because they still go on about their yeah, I know. Yeah. That's why they go after education, right? Because education is indoctrination. Because what they found is that study that came out is, remember that study said that most people that graduate university tend to lean left in their opinions. And so their takeaway from that was not that fact-based people vote left. It was that clearly they're being tricked in university. No, this is more educated. and how
In
the
that
world
case,
works.
I want my money back.
Yeah.
If I was tricked, that feels like I was coerced. Brother Monk points out it's up to the party to get them to vote. Is this a failing of the National Party if they're not putting forward somebody that National Party voters are keen on?
That's very fair.
Yeah. And then there's this one here from Andre. I think the casualty is in the other direction. Shittier policy leads to lower voter turnout.
Yeah.
Is that one of the issues that you think we saw last year?
Yeah. It's just kind of, it's more, it's a common trend. Low voter turnout nets shitty policy. Shitty policy nets low voter turnout. And the cycle continues until you have people thinking, why bother voting? Only shitty, things are so shit, why bother voting? And yeah, it's a vicious cycle.
I think last time the right really took advantage of COVID, the fallout of just like exhaustion from people and global information, and they really took a note out of Trump's book of like just making sure that they made trans people the enemy because they weren't going to win. So in March of 2023, all of the news articles that were coming out were saying that it was going to the election of climate. Remember, we had that massive climate war. Greta Thunberg mentioned us because the percentage-wise, it was really monumental. And the pivot to trans people the following month was insane, like so straight away because it had worked in America. And so I think there was just also fatigue. The other thing, my background's in marketing, is that explaining is losing, and that's to do with just viewer retention. And so the right-wing parties did a really good job of putting forward bullshit arguments that needed to be explained away on the left. And so the left had to explain how this spend of money saved people's lives and how actually letting people die would have been worse for the economy. And as soon as you're in that explaining zone, you're not in that self-promoting zone, which is where you really want to be as a political party. And so, Tanya, kia ora. And they really exploited that exhaustion of people. And now we're going to be exhausted for another reason. It's just this government and the fact that Nicola has been worse for the economy than a fucking global pandemic, respectfully.
That says a lot. Maybe we shouldn't put English lit majors in charge of economies. Not that I've got anything against English lit majors, Sean. I'm sure your degree is very useful for what you do. But please don't be finance minister anytime soon.
Yeah, but the issue with that is that Nicola's also not even very good with her language. I was like, did you work at this? Like, man, what are some of her interviews? And I'm like, you've worded that so poorly.
Yeah. Right, I've got a question for the Wellington team because I don't know the answer to this one.
I don't. I'll leave it to you guys.
Yeah,
I can
just
talk
wanted
about
the panel's opinion. If they're aware that Chris Bishop is pushing for the Petone to Granada link to be built, which goes through Gilbert's Bush and Seaton Nossiter Park, and the preferred route has changed again.
Yeah. So I was talking to an older gentleman who has been talking about this with me, and he said that they keep changing it. It's been changed like for the last 10 years what the better routes are because people want to be able to get to that side from the hut. But this is going to shave 10 minutes off a commute, and I don't think that's worth cutting into some of the only native area that we've got left in the hut. So my personal preference is that maybe we should look at other options.
That's me as well. Having driven through there for the past 10 years quite a bit, I would say I would prefer to just have better public transport and public transport alternatives. There's a lot of people that would prefer to be using public transport but are stuck using a car because of just the dependency in the roads and how poor public transport is sometimes. I think that would be I don't think that'd be a better that is a better long-term solution to these issues than just being like, more roads, quickly. And it is
the infrastructure report that came out in the last month told them to pull back on roads, and they're like, we're not going to listen to that.
This is the thing. National will constantly talk about investment in infrastructure, but they only ever invest in roads. Cycleways are infrastructure, footpaths are infrastructure, walkways are infrastructure, bus lanes are infrastructure. That's all infrastructure, but those are all the things that they take money from, and then they're just like, more roads. because petrol, because oil, because corporations. They just do. They're actually really poor with investing in infrastructure, like terrible at it. So yeah, this thing that Bishop needs this bridge transmission thing, doesn't he? So he's
I
token
feel like
that for
they're
his
just
career.
not innovative, right? Because
Yeah,
like you're building roads when we're probably not even going to have roads that look like that in 100 years, because we're going to have different kind of cars that probably don't even use the same kind of, like, what are you doing?
that's the thing.
Flying
And
cars.
it's difficult in government because when we're talking about infrastructure, we need to think long term. But a government term is not long term. 3-year bits. And so you need successive governments to agree on these things. This is where China does amazingly. A few years ago, I was in Guangzhou and I was in the airport, and it was huge, like football stadiums, huge. And there were only 12 of us in this terminal. And I was asking one of the people there, one of the reps, why have you built such a massive airport when there's hardly anyone using it? This is not even a main thoroughfare. And they said that's because here we build for the population that we predict this city will be in 40 years. And I'm like, that's where we need to be. And they are lucky enough that they have successive governments that think that way. I'm very aware that a city planner that I spoke to about Auckland said that when the Auckland Harbour Bridge, the main one, was built, it was still 40 years behind where it needed to be for the population once it was finished. Then we built the extension, and by the time we finished that, we were still behind. So it will take long-term thinking, successive governments to actually work on our infrastructure.
At the event I was emceeing yesterday, I actually had a woman come up to me after the event who cycled there from out west, and we were down in South Auckland. And she pointed out that because of the funding cuts that came almost immediately, it was one of the first things that this government removed funding for, which was cycle lanes, footpaths, those alternative transport options. It meant that Auckland Council had to change the way that it was planning for alternative transport forms. And essentially what they've done is they've forced cyclists to go onto Great South Road, which is one of the busiest streets, or one of the busiest roadways in the entire country. And there's very little in the way of protection or kind of differentiation for cyclists on that road. And from that, we're already starting to see an increase in injuries and fatalities. There's a really direct line of, this is the infrastructure we want to invest in, and if others don't do that, then they're going to suffer as well. And it's painful to see the results from it.
Yeah.
So we have a new comment there from Eric, another one. Just wanting the panel's opinion about carer disability support for people on supported living payments. It seems you can't use it for subsidizing a laptop purchase, but you can use it for tablet and phone, but it's a one-off only. I
was talking to someone the other day about this, and they pointed out that this was the government that came in and goes, all of a sudden, look, you can't have that support payment. There's no money. We're cutting it off now. And then as we've gotten closer to the election, it's actually, you can have a little bit. You can do certain things. And we're the government that gave it to you. Isn't that amazing? And that seems to be their sales pitch going in for the disabled community is, look, we are supporting you with the things that we cancelled beforehand, but we are supporting you, so you should vote for us.
I never like any kind of, it never rubs me the right way when they always stipulate the support. Like, it can be for a phone and tablet, it can't be for a laptop. Well, can it be for a laptop if it's like secondhand? What if you can kind of hustle, whatever? I just hate the stipulating of what you can kind of spend money on. It kind of reminds me of food stamps in the US. It's like, if you just gave them money and let them use their money at their discretion, it would actually be better for the economy. It's just another case of being a dickhead for the sake of being a dickhead.
Yeah, it feels like just more sanctions and rules and systems around poor people.
Usually it's done to dissuade people from, like, they would tell you it's a way to dissuade people from a life on welfare. But these are people on disability. You can't dissuade them from being disabled. It's, again, just needlessly cruel.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
And there's questions like cheap ones, like washing machines. What if you get a tablet with a Bluetooth mouse and a keyboard? Does that count as a laptop?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This has been a thoroughly depressing episode. 2 hours. We're coming up to 2 hours in about 5 minutes, so I figure we'll wrap it up. I'm going to ask one really tough final question of everyone. What is one positive thing that has happened to you over the last month?
Let's see. Oh, Matthew Horncastle.
I said positive.
I have discovered Matthew Horncastle. If you guys are looking for the final boss of Facebook Cookers, look no further than Matthew Horncastle. The man will give you nothing but entertainment. He has, the amount of joy I get from just trolling that dude, and from just, he's brought me a lot of joy. So hopefully you guys have better.
I enjoy those. I enjoy your responses to
Thank
Horncastle.
you. Yeah, I take great pride in them.
They are. It's a special person.
Everything I've learned about him, I've learned against my will. He's like a Kardashian. I didn't need to know anything about him, and everything that I've been told about him or seen about him just makes me go, how can somebody be that stupid? But then I realize he's been born with a silver spoon in his mouth, and he doesn't know what a silver spoon in the mouth is.
No,
and so
it reminds me of the kind of that old expression, born on second base thinks they've hit a home run. Here's a true story about him, or at least a true story that somebody just left in my comment section. So take it with a grain of salt. Apparently, bro failed NCAA level 2, which, by the way, that's fine. Not everybody is academically inclined, and especially in New Zealand schools, it is quite a narrow framework to work within. If it's not your deal, all good, no heat your way. But after failing NCAA level 2, his mum gave him a very high-paying executive role in his father's property empire, and bro has considered himself a self-made man ever since. So when you have that level of Dunning-Kruger, I just cannot. For me, I just love him because he is the perfect manifestation of he is the natural end point of right-wing policy. He is for me, he's kind of he's like a warning of, hey, we could have a society of these guys controlling us.
Oh my God, can you imagine him in a room with the Mowbrays?
Oh, I think he's been in the room with the Mowbrays from what I've heard, yeah.
Ooh.
I actually thought they were the same family when I first started reading his tweets.
No, they've all got these names: Mowbray, Horncastle. They've all got these fancy names.
Yeah, I think they hold it in too much high regard.
Yeah. What about the other two? Good things over February?
I just spoke at Selwyn College, which was really cool, and I'm going to go speak at a few more schools, which is cool. And that's pretty much me lately. I've been just going to places. I went and saw the firefighters recently.
Oh my God, we had, I don't know if you guys saw the update from Fens today about what happened at Birkenhead.
Yeah.
They had a fire at the Birkenhead Mall, a call out to the Chelsea Sugar Factory, and another call out. That's all my hood. That's 10 minutes up the road from me. And yeah, it's just like everything shut down, CBD shut down because they had to pull trucks out from other places because they wouldn't pay to have the staff on. It's just doing good work.
Too, because they have to keep one person with the truck. So if you have 3 people, but one of you needs to go with the other truck, and then it's you don't have enough people for that one truck, and then one person has to stay behind, and so it's so bad. Poor fire.
Scarily under-resourced and not being taken seriously at all. Fire service, pretty fucking atrocious
All our
as well.
public
considering.
services, I feel like people
Yeah.
think public service is just you work in an office, but I'm like, it's the teachers, it's the nurses,
Yeah.
it's
That's the thing I just want to point out. I know we're on the happy bit of the thing, but I just want to point out that National put out a video where they were like saying where people were getting all their jobs or where they were going, and they were like, but then in the video that they posted, they cut to a hospital, and then they cut to a construction site, and then they cut to and then
that
all
was the Labour people. This is people on Labour on a benefit, and it's just people playing games
and people
stuff
playing
like that.
games
And
because people on a benefit aren't sick or disabled, or they're just lazy people. They're not people who have been underprivileged. They're just lazy playing PlayStation. It's such a weird juxtaposition though, because then the industries that they advertised were all the industries that right now have record liquidations and a severe lack of placements in the nursing and doctors, and then are businesses that are largely being shut down. I was like, you guys are not even. Either they're ignoring their own poor results, or they think we are.
Yeah. Well, if you look at the donations so far, because this year I believe they're doing donations month by month for the political parties that you can see on the elections website. For January, the vast majority of those large donations were all from construction companies or all people connected to construction in some way, with the exception, I think, of the Mowbrays. And their stuff is just toys. But yeah, construction company owners are paying the government to stay, but the construction company workers and contractors are the ones who get hit by the government decisions. And I think more of those people who are impacted by the decisions need to be aware of who is paying for those campaigns.
Absolutely. Follow the money. Positive things from me, self-plug. I'm in post-production for a mini-series that I made a while ago called Shadow Peak, and that's taken me a while to get through, but it's quite hard to fit in there. And I'm in pre-production for a feature film that I hope to shoot either here or in Scotland this year. It's fun times.
Cool.
Fun stuff. Fun stuff outside of politics.
Did I see you were in Black Sheep too? Was that you?
Yes, yeah. Jonathan King is the director of that. Is a really good mate of mine, and he pulled me in for a quick little fun bit.
Is that out now?
Not yet, but I'm
looking forward to it. Yeah,
it's so good. It is really good for fans of Black Sheep, which I highly recommend watching if you haven't already.
The first one is peak key, like Peter Jackson, like a kind of like a throwback to old school Peter Jackson, the original Black Sheep. Yeah,
and the Alien one they did. I've read the script. I went through and did a table read with Jonathan King, who's the director, and it's a brilliant script. Like it's an updated version of the other story, but in a non-preachy way and in a very funny way that I think this. I can't give anything away, but this particular podcast would very much, and our commenters would very much find us hilarious.
Yeah,
Jonathan's father was the historian, wasn't he? That's right.
Yeah, good guy. But highly recommend it when it comes out.
It's on my radar.
We especially would enjoy it.
Perfect. I think it's a great way to end the show.
Yeah. So do I.
Easy.
Cool.
Perfect.
Black Sheep. That's a good way to describe us for.
Yeah. All right. One last thing for anybody who hasn't already got the message, please go to vote.nz and check your enrollment details.
Sweet.
Absolutely. Shout out Zane.
Yeah.
All right. Sweet.
All right. I'll press the button. See you guys soon.
Bye.
Peace out, team.
See you later.